I guess, shall we go around and we'll do it clockwise? People's impressions of the movie who have seen the movie. What did you think? Strong bits, weak bits, terrible bits that should never come back. And if we're going clockwise, I guess it's from me. So, Cynic, what did you make of the movie?
Well, I thought it was terrible up there with the likes of the Marvels. I really do think it's bottom of the barrel when it comes to MCU movies. I thought that it was exactly what I predicted. I made 2 videos on this movie before it came out because I've just been following its troubled production. And it's exactly what you thought it was going to be if you followed it, which was a clunky mess. You can tell it's been written multiple times and kind of mushed together. It seems, I said in my script, it seems like a movie that was made by committee and not by someone with like a singular vision. You can and I think that committee was a bunch of 10-year-olds because it was supposed to be a spy thriller. So a bit of mystery and intrigue, but everything's given to you right up front. If you have half a brain, nothing's mysterious or anything whatsoever. So you're always 10 steps ahead of the characters in the movie. And that can work if it's not written by people who are functionally retarded, but it certainly seems like this script was. So you are smarter than the movie and you know it the entire time. And you just have to watch these characters kind of discover things that you already know. And honestly, they discover the same things multiple times. They have the same aha moments multiple times in the movie. Pretty much everything was wrong. I thought the acting by most everyone was pretty bad, but they were just doing what they could with the script that was just fucking atrocious. I actually did not hate Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson. I mean, he's been fine anyway as Sam Wilson. Now he just kind of wears a different suit. He's still the Falcon. But the movie's so goddamn insecure, they call him Captain America like 80 times. So there's that. I could go on and on, but we will touch on everything, I'm sure. But I don't know if you can tell, I didn't like this fucking thing. So we can get other people's thoughts on it.
I guess we're continuing clockwise. Sammy 3B, you were too sick to see this movie. So well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. I did have predictions, though, and I want to see if I can be vindicated on a couple. Far be it from me to have low expectations on a movie that had 2 to 3 rewrites, and that was a summer blockbuster that was released in February. But, from what I saw from the previews, I kind of noted that, Red Hulk and the leader are Hulk bad guys. So I was like, this is going to be kind of feeling more like a sequel to the original MCU Hulk movie, which you guys told me that kind of felt like that. So and another thing that from what Cynic just said is I'm sure that they were going to beat to death that Sam Wilson was Captain America and go out of their way to tell you that. Otherwise, I just figured it was going to be kind of feel like one of those should have went straight to Disney Plus type of MCU movies. So those were my predictions.
Well, your predictions were pretty spot on. Yeah. Yep. Because more about the movie too was that it's a sequel to The Incredible Hulk, which is hilarious, and no one asked for that. I don't think anyone really liked that movie very much. So
also, no one predicted it because I was mentioning this on EFAP on Saturday, but Disney Plus does this thing where it bundles all of the essential films you need to see in advance. It didn't include The Incredible Hulk because I don't think anybody expected Captain America 4 to be a sequel to 2008's Incredible Hulk, the movie that no one's even sure exists in the MCU. So I got to watch it on the day. I was like, for fuck's sake, I've got an entire another movie. I've just binged all the Captain America ones and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in preparations. No, I've now got to go back even further and remember who the fuck Betty Ross is. But we'll come to her, I'm sure, in due course later. Nia, what did you make of the movie?
Yeah, I tend to agree. This movie is very insecure. Like Movie Cynic said, like the first 15 minutes as I was rewatching this movie, Sam Wilson has like, I think 10 or 11 different characters refer to him as Captain America. Even the Mexican people in the church that rescue him are like, gracias, Captain America. And it's just like, The writers got together, I feel, and I said this earlier, and asked which plot point in film do we want this to follow, and what kind of Captain America do we want Sam Wilson to be? And the response was a resounding yes. Like they had no idea what they were doing. I said this on Open Bar last week, but this movie is basically a Frankenstein's monster of other MCU films. You know, you've got pieces of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Civil War. It functions as a sequel to the Edward Norton, The Incredible Hulk. It's also a very loose continuation of the Eternals in that they mention the Celestial is there, but they don't discuss the meta of there being a giant god in the ocean. It's just, oh, look, adamantium. That's great. Much in the same way, I think that Sam Wilson's Captain America is also like a mixture and a Frankenstein's monster of other heroes. He's got the shield of Cap, the mask of Ant-Man, the wings of Falcon, the tech of Iron Man, the fight choreography of Black Widow, and the vibranium armor of Black Panther. They did not know who they wanted Sam Wilson to be. The script is a mess. It's very hard to follow. There's evidence of multiple reshoots, which the studio was trying to deny by saying there was only one reshoot, but
Hilarious.
no, there's multiple reshoots, and you can spot it, especially with Giancarlo Expositio. There's a weak villain that doesn't complement the protagonist. The editing, CGI, and pacing is very choppy. And Red Hulk is a gimmick in this film, right? Because without him, nobody would have gone to see the movie. They knew this, which is why they wouldn't even let his reveal be a surprise. I feel like if this was phase one, nobody would have known that the Red Hulk was in this movie till they went to the cinema. But the marketing hinges on Harrison Ford's Red Hulk. All I kept thinking was, you got to do better, Feige.
Talk about insecure. They needed people to get to the theater, so they just spoiled the only thing that would have been worthwhile.
Although there is a little note on that, which is that they didn't really have much of a choice because the contract with McDonald's, this is how movie making works. It's the magic of movie making. Because they had a contract with McDonald's to release the toy line for the movie in the middle of 2024 when the film was supposed to come out, McDonald's spoiled the Red Hulk thing last year because they released Happy Meal toys with the Red Hulk. Also, a bunch of characters who don't appear in this movie, but who we know were supposed to be in this movie because there's photos of them on set. So get fucked with your whole, oh, there's only one reshoot. No, there's loads of people that were in this film who are not in this film anymore. And we know that because there's photographic evidence.
Yeah, you can follow the interviews that are from all these people that were cut from the movie. Like if you just follow the news and follow the breadcrumbs, you can tell this movie was reshot multiple times and not just for 22 days.
The merchandise as well.
Because their hands are on the pulse, and everybody knows we want more CGI Harrison Ford, and they had to figure out a way to give that to us. And I think they might have pulled it off here. So
continuing in our clockwise direction, then Bagface, you're usually our reliable deliverer of hot takes. Tell us why this movie was incredibly good.
I don't think it was incredibly good, but I think it's just fine. I think it's better than a lot of people are saying it is. I think it's like, I keep seeing comments about how it's technically a disaster and like it's not. I don't know, like everyone's just gonna hate me, man, but like I spend a lot of movies and things in my life like contemplating what lens they're using, what camera it was shot on. Usually I can guess. I'm like deciding why they used a certain T-stop, where the light direction is coming from. I think about a lot of things in movies that have to do with filmmaking, and I think I see certain things differently than other people. This movie is competently made, but not competently put together. And I think there's some good aspects to it that will be overshadowed by the not so good aspects to it. But I'm black, so my opinion doesn't matter on this.
Fuck. Okay, I guess skip me then. I guess.
I guess you're gonna skip Jedi Brooks.
Me and Cynic did a video together where we talk about it, and you know, like most of the comments are like, "Well, yeah, but this guy's black. He likes it because he's black." And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, automatically. Right. That's how it works.
Yeah, automatically. And you know what? I can dress up as Captain America now. So get fucked, nerds. That's dope."
You could have always dressed up like Captain
America.
You
could have always.
But then I'm the black guy who's dressed up as a white guy. That's not cool. I could just be Black Panther before. What's that, man?
Well, you could have been Falcon or Spawn.
I'm not buff enough to be those people.
They had Nick Fury and Falcon in the MCU for years.
Who wants to be their Falcon?
There's no issue.
Nobody wants to be
And then suddenly it's all about the fact that they're black. Like
It is. For me, it is.
Yeah, they never mentioned that in until Secret Invasion, and they never mentioned skin color until Falcon's stupid show where some kid calls him, "Oh, Black Falcon." It wasn't relevant.
Oh yeah,
now
but they
have
don't
to
they
make
don't
it
shut up
further.
about it in the Falcon and the Winter
Yeah,
Soldier. I mean, that's
Now
the
it's
entire
more
point of
like
that
this-
show. Then they
was
realized how
very-
massively unpopular it was, and so they came to the movie that's supposed to follow on, and they thought, shit, we better ADR over all the mentions of black people and how difficult it is for them in this movie, and then we'll have a movie that people might like potentially. It didn't work, but you know, at least I actually think that was the one good decision they made with this film, is that they leaned very far away from the absolute
I appreciate it.
nadir of
Yeah.
message politics that was the
Yeah.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
In the
Um,
show, he couldn't get a loan because he was black, but here he's living in a freaking palace. Like, what
It doesn't
happened?
make any sense.
Yeah, what happened here?
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah. I chuckled. I was surprised how much of the audience laughed at certain jokes because I didn't think any jokes would laugh. I thought chemistry between multiple characters was pretty good. Like Little Falcon and, Cap Falcon, or, I thought their chemistry was pretty good. Harrison Ford was
Colombian
pretty
Falcon.
good. Harrison Ford's Hulk looked pretty good. Like, I know everyone's saying the CGI was garbage, but his Red Hulk looked good. The model they used was fucking good, and they did that pretty well.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that you brought that up. As someone who gets very sunburnt in the summer, I finally see, I can see myself, who am I gonna play? I can't just I'm too red to go out, so now that there's Red Hulk, I feel some representation, and I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could see why he was in a bad mood. Jedi Brooks, it's over to you. What did you make of the movie?
Okay. I find it very interesting that everyone is clued in on the key word of insecurity. Like everyone I've seen talk about this movie has mentioned it because it's just drenched in it. From the very beginning when they mentioned Captain America and then they show Sam's face, and I just fucking laughed out because he's Sam Wilson to me. Everyone should know him as Sam Wilson. This transition could have been earned in this movie, yet instead they try to just force it down our throats and remind us every 20 seconds that he's Captain America, and it's genuinely embarrassing. I wasn't expecting it to be this embarrassing when it comes to that specific aspect. Like they could have really taken their time. And for a movie that pretty much is all about him, we still don't know anything about this man or what he values compared to what we learned about Steve. Steve's first movie achieved so much more than this guy who's had an entire show now and this ridiculous movie dedicated to him. And I like Anthony Mackie as an actor, and it sucks that he's in this situation. The lazy continuity, addressing things like the giant alien in the ocean and barely even really going into it, just trying to basically say, yeah, see guys, we did that, but you didn't really do anything with it. Since Endgame, the lack of interest and continuity is shocking. Like the amount of things that they've just tried to skip over from writer to writer, and this movie is another example of it. I don't know what it's continuing from, other than all the things that we've mentioned. It's more of a Hulk sequel than it is a Captain America sequel. And I don't know what it's building up to. Where does this movie, what the fuck was the point of this movie? What did it achieve? And yeah, one of the things that's gonna annoy me the most personally is just the stakes are completely fucked when it comes to any type of Hulk now. He's a joke. Whether it's Red Hulk, Green Hulk, you can pick any type of color Hulk you want. They just completely have ruined the entire premise of that character. The fact that Tony he needed the Hulkbuster suit and could barely even put up a fight against him. Thor's a god, but now She-Hulk with the Jeep can beat Hulk. This guy can literally say, hey, maybe you should just calm down, and it just completely gets de-escalated. Hulk has been ruined over and over and over and over again. I think that's kind of what bothers me the most about this movie. Everything else is nonsense, but the way they just used Hulk again just for the promotion ties back to everything I have issue with, Bruce Banner's Hulk, in the fact that he's just used to facilitate other people's storylines over and over.
They have the rights to it. They don't have the rights to make a solo Hulk movie.
That doesn't mean they have to make him shit, and that doesn't mean they can't actually. Yeah. They didn't make a Black Widow movie for years, and she was a fantastic character. And then when she finally got a movie, she got obliterated. So I don't think you need to have your own movie to be treated with respect. And that's kind of
I agree with that, but I'm saying that's why we keep getting these Hulk characters brought into films and not actually having a Hulk film. They don't actually have the rights to make a MCU Hulk movie. That's why Thor Ragnarok felt like World War Hulk or Planet Hulk. That's because essentially it was. They just didn't have the rights to actually do that story.
Yeah, they take pieces of the story and
Yes,
just throw it in there here
absolutely.
and there.
Mm.
Kind of like the demon in a bottle arc that Tony goes through in the comics, which is one of
Mhm.
his most interesting stories. They basically took little pieces from that to make Iron Man 2 and like just sanitize it and stitch it together. And that's kind of
Well,
what they do.
and
with
as you can see, it works out great.
Jeez, no, I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that just leaves me then. So yeah, obviously doing a video on this topic. I think I've lit upon the way in which Marvel movies are concepted these days. There's this thing, it's called the Wheel of Feige, right? And what it is that you take a list of character names of people who you can still use in the Avengers, like Thor, Black Panther, Captain Marvel. You spin it, and then you find out which movie you're doing next. In this case, you spin the wheel, and it is Captain America. Then you spin it to see which movie it's actually a sequel to, and it could be fucking anything, as long as it's more than 10 years old or redundant or obscure or unpopular and loads of loose ends. Then you spin the wheel and you get, in this case, yes, the Incredible Hulk. And then you figure out, well, what techno magical bullshit thing is going to be like our tie-in to whatever movie comes next. So you could have, I don't know, adamantium. You could have Infinity Stones from another universe. You could have fucking Gore the God Butcher's Necro Sword again. I don't know. You spin the wheel. Oh, it's adamantium this week. And then you spin it one last time. And that's when you get the movie that you're stealing the entirety of your plot from. And in this case, they span the wheel and it lit upon the Winter Soldier, because that's
Yes.
where all of this story comes from.
Yeah,
Except for the lines of dialogue they stole wholesale from Civil War. But that's how it works. But you can do this, and I'm going to do this in the video like a couple of times, just to concept brand new and exciting Marvel movies. I did it last night, and I got Thor. So we're doing Thor 4, which is going to be a sequel to Captain Marvel, which is going to be setting up the Flurkins, and which is going to steal its plot from, I think it was it Ragnarok? It was one of the other ones like that. And that's basically how they make them, because they have no idea where these stories are going, and they don't want them to go anywhere. This movie, above all, wants to achieve nothing. So it begins with a question about, for instance, reforming the Avengers, because that's a thing which we need to address. She-Hulk said that we'd done away with the Sokovia Accords, but nobody watched that, so we forget that that's what happened. So they're kind of still in effect, but we might reform the Avengers. That's raised within the first, I think, 10 minutes of the movie. Then it just drops. It doesn't come up again. But now we know that someone's thinking about it. The point is to tread water and make sure it doesn't happen. They want to introduce adamantium because that will be relevant to an X-Men film, but they can't do anything with it because it isn't an X-Men film. So it's just, hey, yeah, the giant god, that's not interesting. But what is interesting is that in the middle of the giant god, there's some adamantium. And lots of the nations of the world have been fighting over it through many, many years. We just forgot to show you that at any point during many, many years of MCU properties when we forgot the statue existed. So that's now a thing. But again, no questions answered. It's just, hey, introduce concept. The film doesn't give its main character an arc, so he's not supposed to go on a journey. Because they gave the shield to Sam at the end of what's the name of the Endgame? That's the one. I was stuck on like Infinity War. I don't know what the fuck is Infinity. I knew it was an E in it. Because they gave it to him at the end of Endgame, but they obviously did not do it for story reasons. They didn't have a clue what to do once he'd got the shield. It doesn't fit his design. It doesn't suit the armor. It's a hat on a hat because his entire suit is vibranium, so he can't be killed. So why does he need a shield? Then they tried to give him a story in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier when they used the blip as an excuse to lecture us about race politics, and it was really unpopular. So then they had to go do away with the only idea they had for that character. And now they're just left with, okay, he's a guy. He wears a suit that's made of vibranium, which can fly and also use shockwaves. He's invincible, but he also has a shield that makes him extra invincible. And he's perfect, basically, from beginning to end. He doesn't lose. He can't lose. He learns nothing. Even his sidekick character learns nothing. And that's kind of it. So you have a movie with characters that don't have arcs, setting up things that don't lead anywhere, using concepts they can't actually deploy. And they just pick and choose from bits and pieces of older MCU property in order to try and, cobble this weird plot together. It doesn't work at all, is the short form version, but it is quite funny to watch. And especially because I also went through the list of the characters who were supposed to be in this movie at various different points, and most of them actually got into filming. So you have, who is it? Is it Diamondback? I don't know who any of these people are, but they're all part of the Serpent Society, whose gimmick is that everyone is called after a snake, because that's really cool. He was supposed to be in the movie and isn't. A character called Amadeus Cho was supposed to be in the movie. He was in Ghostbusters, the actor, not the character. He isn't in the movie. Seth Rollins from
Seth
WWE,
Rollins!
he's supposed to be in the movie. He was cut out of the movie, but then they introduced a character who basically fulfills the same role.
Yeah,
And that's the
there's
same
no
thing with
reason why
the fight, right?
they cut him out.
yeah, with the big fight, which is only there because it happens in the Winter Soldier.
Right,
Except
yeah.
in this situation, it's worse for reasons we'll come to. But
Well, they've done that
there's-
with wrestlers in the past. Macho Man and Kevin Nash. There's quite
Yeah.
a few that have done.
But they introduce a character in the original script and in the original version of the movie who's supposed to be the mastermind behind the Serpent Society. They get rid of them, and then at the last minute they bring in Giancarlo Esposito to be the mastermind head of the Serpent Society. So it's like you clearly didn't have a fuck clue what you were doing, because like, you've introduced your characters, then you thought, no, we don't need them anymore. Then you made a movie, and then you thought, oh shit, we do need them after all, but they're not available, so let's bring somebody else in to do the same thing. It's such a mess. And it costs $500-ish million.
Yeah,
it's very professional.
Holy
I
shit,
want to
that
touch
piece of
on that
crap.
too, because I've noticed a lot of pushback about the budget when I mention it in my videos, and I don't give a fuck if Disney says that it was only cost $180 million. They're lying. They lied about Doctor
for sure.
Strange. Forbes came out with an article that revealed they had court documents that Disney had to fess up. They spent $415 million to make Doctor Strange 2 after reporting that it cost $200 million. They are lying because that's what they do. They're trying to save face. So it's going to be a bomb. It has to make $1 billion for them to actually see profit. Whether they admit that or not, I really don't care, because that's just not reality. If you follow the breadcrumbs of the production, you get exactly, you can find the facts. Yeah, and you also find that the movie is exactly what you expect, which was a clunky piece of shit. So,
Platoon, you mentioned that Amadeus Cho was supposed to be in the film. He's like a new version of the Hulk, and I also heard that there was supposed to be a death at the end, with many people thinking that that was supposed to be the death of President Ross. Do you think that there was actually supposed to be a fight with Amadeus Cho's Hulk and Captain Falcon America teaming together to beat the Red Hulk and kill him in the initial
My guess would be yes, and that the original final battle was the one that takes place on the ships by the dead god statue, because that plays like a final encounter.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't end like a final encounter should. It's like they got to the point, then they reshot the ending of it to make it inconsequential, and then they tacked on this bit at the end with the fight at the White House, which looks different. I mean, the quality of the CGI is different, the writing is different. It's another example of a hat on a hat. And I would not be at all surprised if the original final battle was, the big arena level, which they'd even created for this big final battle, featuring a bunch of these characters who were then cut from the movie, and so they had to reorient it toward the end. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. There's a couple of other characters who were supposed to be in it, like, is it Eli Bradley, who's the son of Isaiah Bradley, who's from Falcon and the Winter Soldier? He was going to be in the movie. They said, I think the line was, oh yeah, we got there and we realized that maybe there were too many characters and we really wanted it to be focused and grounded. Well done. You didn't succeed. But that was a reason for cutting that character out. There was also supposed to be Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, who is the Contessa, whatever the fuck her name is, who was supposed to be like the Nick Fury type, mastermind behind the scenes. And she was the one who was supposed to be, and I think was filmed doing, or at least in part filmed doing, like arranging the Serpent Society hit to get the adamantium. So she was supposed to be tying this movie into Black Widow, into Falcon and Winter Soldier, into Wakanda Forever, all of which she appears in, leading you toward Thunderbolts. But then she was cut out of the movie as well. And I think even Mark Ruffalo said last year he suggested he was going to be in the movie. And then people said, fuck no, you're not. And so he went back to crying about elections. So it's a mess.
Was Blade in it at any point? Like, it just seems like everybody was cut from this movie. It's crazy. I just wanted to make two. Or go ahead, Nia.
No, you go ahead, brother.
Just 2 points, because I don't want to forget them. Gustavo Fring is one of my favorite gangsters ever, and he's just being tarnished, like, from all these rip-off Temu versions. It's incredible. From Moth Gideon to the dude in The Boys. There's probably another one I don't remember, but this was the one that, like, man, you look like Gus and you kind of sound like Gus. Shut up, man. I just don't want him to see this actor forced to play, like, abuse this role over and over and over again. He's so much better than this. And one of the things with Falcon that just really sucks about him being so strong is the fact that he was vulnerable is what got him and Bucky to eventually have a relationship, because he got his ass whooped by the Winter Soldier. And then one of the best jokes in that movie is like, can you move your seat up? No, that wouldn't have happened if he wasn't already pissed off. Imagine that same scene happened with fucking Captain Wakanda. He would have destroyed the Winter Soldier. Like, it really ruins what he was as a character. You know, him being vulnerable was a part of it. Not everybody can just be OP.
I agree. And one of the things I think that would have made this movie better is to have, I said this yesterday, have him on the back foot, take away his shield, take away his vibranium wings, and make him have to deal with all of the villains and problems that are escalating on his own terms. Let him earn the shield. Let him earn the vibranium wings at the very end. And then we're like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's Captain America.
Earn the name Cap. Don't call him Cap from the first 5 minutes. Save it for the very end and then like make it mean something. Like, you should break out into a tear while he gets called Cap, gets the shield. And we're like, you know what? This makes no sense. It should have been Bucky, but you did a good job. And like, there's so many ways this could have worked, and I think that's what's kind of frustrating about it.
You know, speaking of Bucky,
another superhero movie without stakes.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of Bucky, the common argument I've heard about why he shouldn't be Captain America, which I think Jedi Brooks and I are on the same page. He absolutely should have been the one.
Yeah, it's insane.
Is that he's, you know, a former assassin and killer, so therefore there's no way that anyone would accept him. But in this movie, he's going to be a congressman.
Okay, that is the reason. Okay, the man needs a new identity. He literally, as he's used the shield so many different times in the series, when he's fighting Cap in the Civil War fight, they pass it back and forth. They've set it up so many different times. But the most important part is what you mentioned, the fact that he has that horrible past. It doesn't mean that you come right out and introduce him right away. Hey, everybody, Bucky Barnes, the former Winter Soldier. Like, he could literally be the new Captain America because he's the best person for the role. He's Steve's oldest fucking friend, and he's a super soldier. And then after a year of good deeds, they can find, like, maybe they can slowly reveal that this man is the Winter Soldier, who formerly known as the Winter Soldier, who's actually trying to redeem his past. And there's so many ways they could have worked with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of like, oh, he did a bad thing.
Doesn't he wear a mask
anymore? Exactly. Yeah, he wears a mask. He wears a mask. It doesn't make any sense. Like, put the fucking mask back on. Give him a year or two of proper deeds so we can earn the mantle of Captain America, and then reveal his story. Because the only good part of the show, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is the first episode where they have Bucky's like therapy sessions, where they're showing some of the missions he's been on, and the old man he's trying to actually, like, you know, make peace with because he killed his son. I'm like, this is what I want to see from Bucky, and this would be in a part of him earning it. But instead, we need to see fucking Falcon and his sister and their stupid boat. Like, it was such a waste, man.
I mean,
I know it's.
I started skipping her scenes. I hate that bitch, man. She's such a waste of screen time.
For a movie that decided to cut out any politics, the character is Sam Wilson because of political reasons. I think we discussed this in the last BSUP, but regardless, it was the all new, all different Marvel era in the mid 2010s. That is why they chose Sam Wilson to be Captain America instead of Bucky. You know, chronologically in story, at least in the era of comics they were adapting, Bucky was it first. It like you said, it's been set up that he would have been Captain America, and it would have been far more interesting to see him redeem himself. It reminds me of Captain America Civil War, when Cap was saying to Bucky, like, hey, that wasn't you, and he said, yeah, but I did it. And that really that was a really well delivered line, and it was super impactful because you know, a lot of things are still weighing him down. Like, he's never going to forget what he did.
It was just on the earlier comment that came up there. Like, there's one of the comments that was just flashed up said that he's got too much going on to be Captain America at the moment. You seem to cite that as a problem. I'm saying, like, I think we're all saying that's what makes it interesting. That's the opportunity, is the fact that you've got a guy who wouldn't be trusted by anybody around him, who has a past he has to redeem himself from, who has reason to distrust his own ability to uphold that mantle. And that's what you want when you have a new character in an older role. You do need to send them on a journey in which they become from a low starting point when everyone rejects them, and they eventually earn that title. That's a good story. That's what you need. You need characters to be starting from a low base. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier did this with Sam anyway. It just chose to focus on the utterly bizarre crap about, oh, refugees are really lovely even when they're trying to commit genocide, so we should welcome them. Like, that absolute bullshit. But they still thought at the time, they thought, no, he's got too much going on to be Captain America. That was the reason that series even was made. So
the fact
like,
that they could, oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, the fact that Bucky has so much to redeem himself for is what makes him being Captain America such an interesting character. And he would have fit the basic idea for this movie better as well, because this is taking so many plot beats from the Winter Soldier, because it is a story about people being mind controlled into being double agents. That's the ideal story in which you want Bucky to be Captain America,
Yeah.
because that's the story in which everyone says you can't be this because you're vulnerable to exactly the thing we're seeing. You might even be involved in it. So if you really wanted a character to be caught up in the genuine political drama and intrigue, distrusted for his relationship to like his past events, that's the story to put him in. But Sam has no bearing on this subject at all. He just vaguely remembers that Bucky was mind controlled once, and then he doesn't do anything about it. He doesn't.
Yeah, he
even
doesn't even
call
mention
him.
it.
It's
Like,
just
there's so much like cases of mind control in this in the MCU so far, and they don't even like factor that in. He's like has no counters whatsoever to Ross during the entire situation to prove that Isaiah didn't do it. And the fact that they can't see the potential that they have with Bucky is just embarrassing. The whole thing is right there. All the threads are there. It's right there.
Well,
And
they
to add
double
to this
down on
point,
not wanting that. You know, where it would have made more sense in Falcon and Winter Soldier, where you have both of these characters almost competing of who deserves the shield less, because they have so much respect for Steve Rogers, right? Where they're going like, I couldn't possibly carry this man. Well, you should, because you were his best friend, you're his oldest friend. Think about all that he sacrificed to kind of redeem you. No, it was like you stuck by him during, like this and that, and they have this back and forth that would have made the show so much more interesting, where because these are heroic characters, so to speak. It was like none of them wants this title or this burden thrust upon them, and I feel like they were trying to do that in Winter Soldier and or Falcon and Winter Soldier, where eventually the plot just called for it. So they were like, well, you're Captain America now. When really at the end of Endgame, he should have walked up to Sam Wilson, given him the shield, and then Sam Wilson should have walked right up to Bucky Barnes and go like, I don't want anything to do with this. This should be you.
I'm
And
Falcon.
then that's what
Well,
the show is about. Is
that
them
would have been a
bickering
better
over the
story
role.
if they were actually like humble about it, but literally it was the opposite. I don't really follow that, because they were completely bitter about John Walker getting it and wanted to mug the guy and steal the shield like some
That's
thugs.
the thing.
They
You
turned
never
them
see what
into
happens to it, and then you get U.S. agent when everyone should have been like, where the hell did this guy come from? It should have came down to those two. That would have been a better story as well, where now you have these characters who are kind of fighting over who wants the role less, because none of them want to accept that burden, and they both have to come together to kind of take down this imposter who's tarnishing everything that Steve Rogers built up. And then like that's an inherently captivating story where you're also utilizing these characters correctly, because the reputation of Steve Rogers is supposed to be like infallible, right? It's one of those things like when Captain America says go, everybody listens. And it was like, you don't get that from anyone who puts the suit on at this point, because all of them don't seem qualified to do it yet. So having a Bucky Barnes redemption arc probably seems the smarter way to go, instead of going, well, we just kind of gave it to U.S. Soldier because, and then, Falcon took over because, and it was like, well, why couldn't you have some drama over the concept and explore what it means to be Captain America, besides you got to do better, Senator? And like it was like, oh, that's it, that's the thing, he's ready to take over the role now because he yelled at a politician. That's it. That's what we got.
Well, he also broke John Walker's arm and stole the shield from him, which is definitely a noble
Oh, of
act
course.
of reclaiming the symbol that is America. So poor
While
old John Walker, the real
while
Captain
John is
America.
mourning the death of his best friend, like
Yeah.
literally just a few minutes earlier,
Yeah.
they break his hand and take the
That's
shield. How are we supposed to sympathize with Sam?
It's
that
insane.
moment.
The writers just, it's like it just reminds me of Soul, because I watched all that for the first time recently and leading up to this, and I was just shocked. Everybody for years has told me this guy, John Walker, he did nothing wrong. And when I actually watched the show, and it's exactly like everyone laid out the shows against him, when he's literally like, he's completely in the right and they ignore everything about it. It's it's such a disgrace what they do to that guy. And to watch characters that we know are supposed to be so much more altruistic than this, Bucky and Falcon, just mug him like some thugs, break his arm and take the shield. It's like, are you fucking? I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like, this is just they should have just rolled up and shot him, capped him, and took the thing. That would have been just like, you've ruined these characters completely.
And it was a bad opportunity as well, because that is the show in which they really had to give Falcon more of a character. Because if you think from phase 2, when he's introduced in Winter Soldier up until Endgame, I think I'm right in saying he has under 30 minutes of screen time in every movie in which he features, like combined.
We're talking
up
Falcon,
until
right?
Yeah, that's his Falcon has about 30 minutes from Winter Soldier up to Endgame. And none of those 30 minutes you'd say are really about him. His role is basically to be Steve's wingman. He is there to provide that sort of moral support. He's on his side in the debate over the Sokovia Accords, which is another reason his character break in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is so bizarre, because you go from a guy who says, no, government oversight of the Avengers is bad, to we must rely on government to solve all of our problems in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which doesn't really gel, but never mind. Whereas you compare it to Bucky, who has not a huge amount more screen time, I don't think, across those, but you could say at least one and arguably 2 of those movies are kind of about him. He is enmeshed in those stories in a way that the Falcon never really was. And we have more about his backstory, his values. He's more fleshed out. So going into this new era where one or the other of them has to have the shield, one of them is a better character, just in terms of the amount of quality writing they've been given, than the other one. And they gave the shield to the one who'd had the least development, which made Falcon and Winter Soldier so important, because this is the first time you really start to understand who the Falcon is, who Sam Wilson is as a person, and they fucked it. So, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do anything with it. And the
This
thing that
is
had
why I
amazing
hate
potential,
talking
they've
about the
just, like,
MCU
wasted.
with you guys. I think we did this last time, where in order to discuss the topic at hand, we need to go back in time and discuss previously made mistakes that got us into this mess that we're in currently.
It's a part of the story. It has to. It's
You know,
how do you call it
so
a cinematic
what did
universe?
we talk about last
you know?
time, where we ended up talking about, like, for an hour and a half, or we were doing Cynic's video where where that guy was making fun of Cynic, and then it just spawned into what was wrong with WandaVision
for 40 minutes.
Yeah, for 40 minutes, and it was like it's every single time. You know, they have done this from the get, where the stakes are all over the place, power sets are all over the place, and we now have writers that don't understand nuance or morality, and that's how we've gotten to this mess. And it's coming back to bite them in the ass in the worst way, because you can't even tell a fluid story anymore. And you also have these, like you said, like the Feige wheel, where it feels like you're playing checkers with a guy who just won't take his finger off the piece. He's not ready to make that move yet, so he won't release it. And then so it looks like they're just testing out all these waters, because they really don't know what they want to do, because they painted themselves into such an ugly corner. What can you do at this point to redeem it besides reboot the whole damn thing?
Nothing, it sounds like. Yeah.
They have to reboot it, because I think part of the problem is that Kevin Feige and a lot of the executive producers will straight up tell a director and some of their writers not to read the source material they're adapting, let alone watch the 25, 26 films, the long list of mediocre TV shows out there. There's so many films and plot points and revelations that are way too difficult for their writers to acknowledge and incorporate into their stories moving forward. Like, I mean, I don't know if we mentioned this, but according to Secret Invasion, there's like millions of shape-shifting scrolls in the MCU.
Oh, God.
And it ends with the president of the US saying, we're going to war with the aliens. And then we cut to Captain America, and none of that is acknowledged.
No continuity, even in the Marvels as well.
To be fair, yeah, that was broken in the Marvels, because the Marvels is the next thing out after Secret Invasion. And Secret Invasion ends with the Anti-Alien Act, which says you can't have aliens on Earth. And then the Marvels is like, let's bring the Skrull refugees to Earth.
Yeah, we can't even blame
Did
Captain.
you not pay attention? These
for
things
this
coexist. They also then obviously poses questions from the beginning of this movie, because this movie opens up with President Indiana Jones, grumpy old man Harrison Ford, giving his speech about togetherness, and he's like, "Yeah, so we've been dealing with some tough shit recently on Earth. We had half the population disappeared and then came back. That happened. We're not going to talk about it again. There's a giant god out of the ocean that also happened." And he won election against whom and how and when? Did he beat the guy in Secret Invasion? Was he on his team? Did he take over from him? Is the
Where's
anti-alien
Gaia?
thing still a thing? What happened to
Where's
her?
fucking Gaia? Like, it's the key to everything. And
Was
I'm
he-
just gonna say real quick, the scrolls is one of the ultimate examples of them having no creative interest in these subjects. Because like you have shape-shifting aliens. There's so much you can do with that as a writer. And they
Mhm.
did Secret Invasion. So like that's just all you have to really point
Yep.
to.
Well, and they're asking you to, and how easy it is to suspend your disbelief. Because sadly, the guy who originally played Thunderbolt Ross passed away. They replaced him with Harrison Ford. All they had to do to replace this guy who goes, almost didn't recognize you without the mustache. Immediately, you buy into it. You're fine. Okay. Or it was like, people want to like this shit. Okay. It was like, it was like, I never go to the movies and go, well, I hope they disappoint the shit out of me with this. It was like, I want to like this stuff. There's so many things that you can do to make it easy on yourselves, and it feels like they just go, nah, this is where we're just gonna do this. And then when you go, well, why? And then when you put it under any type of scrutiny, they just go, well, because, and then they have no reason. And then we get things like this, and it's it's disappointing.
As long as you don't replace Katie Holmes with fucking Maggie Gyllenhaal, I'm good.
Yes.
Yeah, no one's fighting over that chick.
Like that
I'm
was the
sorry.
one where like, what the fuck? Like, what? The whole movie, it was just like, because I'm picturing these lines are for Katie Holmes, the scene, I'm picturing her face, it just doesn't. Yeah, that's the one.
His name was Caesar, and he never gave up his power. Like, ugh.
I did want to dive actually into the plot of the movie, but
Yeah, we can do that. We've only talked about, we've only done the introduction so far. It's only taken us 42 minutes.
42 minutes.
Opening thoughts on the movie.
Good God, man. We had a lot to say, God damn it. Okay. There's a lot. Yeah, if we want to dive into the plot, then shit, let me pull up my old script here. I have one. I have a review I wrote that I don't know. Backface, when is that going to be out?
You want it to be good?
Yes.
Wednesday.
All right. That's fair. Yeah.
Having seen it 4 times, I can kick us off while you find your notes. So obviously, we do begin with President Ross. He's at his speech, and he's just become president. So he's given his victory speech, and his tagline is "Together." And he pops some pills because, yep. And
I wonder if that's going to mean anything.
I wonder if that will mean something at the end of the movie. And then he talks about the difficult things they faced, but the world must move forward together. And then you cut to a news montage. Exposition News Network is what this is. The news basically, it has a lot of jobs to do in this opening scene of the movie, because it has to tell you who Captain America is. It has to tell you who the president is. It has to tell you they had a tumultuous relationship. Can they possibly get over that? Because this is one of the central conflicts of the movie. It has to tell you who President Ross used to be. It has to tell you what he did in the Hulk movie, because no one remembers that shit. It has to tell you that he had a daughter from whom he is estranged, and who she is, and whose girlfriend she was, Bruce Banner's. And then it has to say, but, somehow he turned the narrative around, even though he got angry that one time. And, maybe will he be a good president is kind of the idea. So it is a huge amount of exposition.
You know what it
to break
didn't
down.
have to do that it did do as well, which it gave you the answer as to who the villain is that they try and figure out for 3/4 of the film.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it just tells you exactly what the fucking answers to the test are right off the bat. So there is no mystery to be had whatsoever for this film. And it's supposed to be a spy thriller with some mystery and intrigue, everybody. But like here you go. Here's the answer. This is the bad guy. They don't even mention it in some passive fashion. You're watching the news. The news is telling you all this information. And then they specifically say that Ross locked up the guy that was responsible for the abomination. And then they cut to him in his little lab looking all, well, this is the only thing that looks mysterious, is him walking around his lab. And that's the answer to the test right there. If you saw that movie, which most people who are still connected to the MCU somehow, like we are, if you saw that, you know who that is immediately.
It does that all the way through, though. So, like, every single time, like, if the movie wants you to think that there is something suspicious going on and that there is somebody behind the suspicious thing, it will have a long camera shot of the person behind the suspicious thing while sinister music plays. Like, this is political intrigue, guys. Look how suspicious the villain
they have to
is.
hold your hand. They have to hold your
It
hand
has,
through
like-
everything, man. It's so
Has
sad.
like stock political intrigue music playing, you know?
Yeah. And that's it sort of that applies to almost everything because it applies to most of the new shit as well. You actually don't need exposition scenes to introduce you like this. If the main conflict in your movie is going to be between President Ross and Sam Wilson, you can see that in the movie that you watch. You don't need to be told it going into the movie because we will pick that up as the movie progresses. You don't need to be told that he is estranged from his daughter who was Bruce Banner's girlfriend because you will see that over the course of the movie. And there are all other like later scenes which just establish the same point. It will never ever show you if it can tell you instead, which is the opposite of the way these things should work.
We get to see him in his little fake mustache too, because they show clips before he was president, and that's the connecting piece between William Hurt, who passed away as General Ross, and this current iteration of him played by Harrison Ford. And it's almost like the Henry Cavill mustache removal JL reshoots situation, but in reverse. It just looks absolutely ridiculous. After that, where do we go after that, Platoon?
After that, we go to our first ripoff of The Winter Soldier. You might remember, if you remember The Winter Soldier, this film certainly does, that movie kind of begins with a hostage rescue mission while they're also after a top secret MacGuffin. It's a pretty good scene, actually, in Winter Soldier because it's actually plays out like a military operation. Cap and Black Widow have a team of Marines who turn out to be evil. I wonder if that will be relevant to this movie. They go down onto the ship and they have to take people out stealthily and arrange themselves, and then they do this coordinated strike to make sure they take out the Hydra agents before any of the hostages get shot. So it plays out. It's high octane. It looks serious. It's all filmed mostly on set. The action sequence itself is pretty strong. This movie opens up with Sam on a hostage rescue mission, also to retrieve a technically important MacGuffin. And it doesn't play out quite the same way because whereas you might think stealth is important in order that hostages don't get killed, Sam doesn't do that. Sam flies down faster than the speed of sound and uses a sonic boom as his opening weapon. And then he uses lots of purple force fields to take out lots of the guards outside, while inside, nobody hears it. No one hears a single thing. So they are surprised when he turns up later, having missed the giant sonic boom that wipes out all of their grunts outside.
On the topic of the sonic boom, the way he accumulates the energy is that he arrives by flying down at the speed of sound, as you mentioned, but he doesn't brace for impact. He just stands there.
No, he's just there.
No amount of augmentations would prevent him from breaking his legs. Like, it's just it's not believable.
Yeah, it's vibranium. He has the vibranium. That's what that's.
Yeah, vibranium tech is just magic at this point. Like, we can't treat it like technology. It's surpassed Iron Man or anything to that degree.
But the vibranium's supposed to be in his wings, right? Because in the following scene, he has a one-on-one fight with a guy who manages to stab him in the chest and rip his suit. So the vibranium isn't in the suit.
The movie is very confused about that point because in other instances, it's very strongly implied that the entire suit is vibranium. But in that instance, you are correct. It gets sliced through. And you kind of wonder whether or not, because what the MacGuffin they're after is this vial of the only refined adamantium they've so far got. So one of the theories is that actually in a version of this movie, the knife was made using adamantium because the Serpent Society's already got hold of it, and that's why it pierced the vibranium suit. But they cut that, and so he has a vibranium suit that isn't vibranium where the plot forgets that it is. Doesn't make any sense, but it's a plausible theory, I think, that they just, like, they had a more important villain stab him, and then that villain got cut from the film.
It's so inconsistent that I just, like, at this point, just treat it like magic. Like, you can't really have any, like, logic to it whatsoever. They've thrown that out the window.
And then to follow along with the Winter Soldier beat by beat, like it wants to do, in the Winter Soldier, Cap fights, a sub boss. Essentially, he fights Batroc, and that was a really cool fight. In this, he confronts Giancarlo Esposito's character Sidewinder, who says, like, you have bigger problems to face. And he turns around, and it's essentially this movie's version of Batroc, and it's just some tank soldier that he has a fight scene with. You're gonna notice that repeatedly, that it essentially is a carbon copy of Winter Soldier. It's just done really, really poorly in comparison.
Yeah, because if you remember the fight with Batroc, Cap, obviously he puts the shield down because he's challenged to, effectively fight as a man as opposed to the guy who stands behind the invincible shield. So he does it. But at the time he does it, from what I remember of Winter Soldier, that he's not risking anything except himself by doing that. The fight is prolonging the mission, but the mission's basically accomplished, so nothing is being put in massive jeopardy. In this situation, Sam does the same thing. He's challenged to fight without the shield. We'll just forget the fact that he has a vibranium suit and wings that could kill the guy in an instant. He doesn't use those. But because he's delaying this fight, Giancarlo's character, fuck it, I'm just going to call him Gus. Gus Fring escapes, but otherwise he wouldn't do. And also, the package is being sent away, and that's the thing he really needs to go and get. So he has to send Joaquin Torres, the character from Falcon, who's now Falcon 2. He has to go and get it. But that means he's untrained, is kind of the premise of his character. So by having this fight to call back to Winter Soldier, Sam is letting the main villain escape pointlessly and putting his colleague's life in danger and risking the escape of the most important MacGuffin he's been sent to retrieve. So it's not structurally the same fight. It thinks it is, but it doesn't understand what it's doing in this situation. A lot of those in the movie. It does Winter Soldier, but without any of the setup or the build-up and the payoff and all the rest of it. It's just structurally unsound by comparison.
Lame ripoff, man. It's pretty much. And like someone in the chat was saying, I just want to add Batroc. I'll never get over the fact that they got like the nicest guy in MMA to play a villain in these movies. It just every time I look at him, it doesn't work. But
oh, is that what he's from? I assumed he was some kind of real life fighter guy.
He's a mixed martial artist, and he's widely considered one of the greatest of all time. He's so it's really cool that he got this role, even though I think it's crazy he's playing a villain. It's just the opposite of his personality, but it works.
So that leads me to think that was supposed to be Seth Rollins in this movie, because he's also fighter guy out. Well, WWE, if you want to call it fighting, you're welcome to do so. No. But then he was removed, and then they put this generic Scandi guy in who's just very tall and very large. But yeah, so like once we've got the Falcon 2, who is untrained, as we learn after the fact, but he is trained enough, so he gets the MacGuffin mission successful, even though Moff Gideon escapes. But then to let us know that we're still doing Winter Soldier, we have the scene where Sam's like, hey, that mission was a bit suspicious. It was a bit too easy. I wonder if some evil, nefarious group was behind it, because the buyer who was supposed to turn up to buy the unrefined adamantium, he didn't show. Suspicious. And the music says, yep, it's really suspicious because there's definitely something behind it, isn't there? And it is, because of course in Winter Soldier, the hostage mission is a fake. It's been put on by somebody else. Hydra is involved. You just replace Hydra with Seventh Society and you get the same effective film. Trying to think what comes next. Next he goes to visit Isaiah Bradley. He takes Torres, who is untrained, but he also already wears the armor and shit, to be trained by Isaiah Bradley, who is the first super soldier, the African-American super soldier who the nation did a massive injustice by, because they locked him up and they imprisoned him and they experimented on him and they didn't tell his story for like 30 years.
He is one character where like his existence just frustrates me, because the fact that there's so many Winter Soldiers out there. But I kind of like the actor. That's like probably one of the only things that I can kind of throw a bone to. I really do like pretty much any scene he's in. He says some nonsense here and there, but I would have rather taken this story done correctly than stupid the Red Guardian and Black Widow, where it just basically this story again, but an even shittier version of it with a crappier performance.
Carl Lumbly, who plays Isaiah Bradley, is running rings around Sam Wilson from an acting perspective.
Oh, yes.
As you said, like a lot of the scenes and the things he's saying don't make much sense, and I don't agree with him because they sort of stem from the issues from Captain and the Winter Soldier show. Yeah. But from an acting perspective, he is phenomenal, brilliant, and I would have loved to have seen more of him in the film.
Being taken seriously, like a real character with a real story. That's bullshit.
But one thing I noticed in this is like Sam brings the new Falcon, Joaquin, to Isaiah to train him. But when they arrive, it's Sam who begins training with Isaiah and not Falcon. Did anybody else spot
Yeah,
that?
that was kind of weird. You could just
Yeah.
show it off.
Hilarious.
I thought you wanted to educate this young man. You're like, here, let me show you how it's done.
Look how cool I am.
Frick, yeah,
They
I'm
also-
trying to do
they-
flips and shit.
They show up looking like they've already done training. And so I think that's another reshoot problem. I think the original version had a longer training montage with Falcon. Then they cut loads of that, and they cut his fight bit entirely. But it still looks like he's been training, except that the movie doesn't have him do that anymore.
I hate to
because-
interrupt. Did they specify why they picked him?
Picked who?
What,
New
Colombian Falcon?
Yes.
No.
Well,
Okay.
no,
Alright.
yeah. It's just that he's Sam's sidekick in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's just that in that movie, he's just like his skill set is nerd. He's a
As
tech
far
guy.
as-
He hacks stuff.
As far as
But-
sidekicks
Oh, I
go,
remember him
didn't-
now.
I didn't mind that guy. He was all right.
Yeah.
Another thing is that the new Falcon, when they arrive, mentions that he knew about Isaiah being a previous Captain America, and he's like, "Oh, your missions in Korea were legendary." But he's completely oblivious to the fact that the U.S. government had imprisoned him. So how did he
Mhm.
know about the secret missions and not about the fact that he was imprisoned?
Well, that's the funny thing, because the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Bradley gets his statue unveiled in the museum for the Captain America exhibit as by way of apology, because the resolution for his character is, you were erased from history, so we are now restoring you to history. But now you get to this film, and you're led to believe that the exhibit that was established to de-erase him from history has also erased him from history again. They just didn't tell anyone what his actual backstory was. So it doesn't add up. I think that's because they wanted to lean away from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier's politics as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so like
Yeah.
they had to cut all of that shit out because that would be controversial.
It never
so
end up in
something-
this crap. Oh my god.
Something that we skipped over is that in the intro where Ross is talking about the Celestial, he calls it a Celestial. So I was really confused. How did the in-universe people know that the thing is called a Celestial?
Yeah.
And why are they
would
not
need-
freaking out that there's a giant dead god in the ocean? Why aren't they concerned that there might be more of them to come? It's just like,
And
none
why
of
do
that
I
is taken
feel
into
like?
consideration? It's
And
just
why do I
oh,
feel like they're not
adamantium.
going to actually elaborate on that? They're literally going to, that's the only time where they're ever going to talk about it. Now it's only going to be strictly about the adamantium resources. Like, it's not, oh God.
It's not
they
about the
just
fact
skip
that a
it
fucking
completely.
alien came up. through
Yeah,
the
that
forest.
should be way more of the discussion.
God.
That should be way more of the discussion. Like, that's as big as the time skip or the blip. And yeah, they just have no interest in dealing with it.
Well, it's been what 5-6 movies now, and it's coming out of one of the Earth's poles. That didn't affect the weather in any way,
The
shape,
planet,
or form,
yeah.
or the tides. Nothing. Okay, cool. Just checking.
It's all like it's an existential crisis, right? More than
Yeah.
anything else. In the same way that half of the people on the planet disappearing and reappearing, seeing a god emerge from the ocean would freak people out. It would create like new cults, new religions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
none
the
that
world
was
of the
developed.
MCU should be full of those things, crazy cults and religions, and like radicals all over from the things that they've experienced. Like, but anytime you go, like the Quantumania scenes with Ant-Man, where he's just walking through the city, like what this isn't. It's one of the reminders that the continuity means nothing to them because from their perspective, it's just like normal day. Like nothing's
With
happening.
the
Like, there's no aliens.
Celestial,
They
I
should be
wouldn't have
They should be worried about
minded.
aliens and things at all times. It's crazy.
I wouldn't have minded if they ignored the continuity from the Eternals, though. I thought for a while they were just like, actually, that movie was a mistake and it doesn't exist.
No, but they
That's where
addressed
were
it in
going.
She-Hulk, so we've already been locked in.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and I'd be with you if it wasn't for that, because we gotta stick to what we work with. But if you're gonna put it in She-Hulk and have throwaway lines here and there, you gotta actually do something eventually. I wasn't expecting this.
Yep. Sorry, I went away for a sec, so I forgot where we left off.
No worries. I believe so. There's the training montage with Isaiah Bradley, and then Sam gets a phone call from the president.
Yes.
He says, "Yes, I'll hold for the president." Normally, if you hear a character say, "Yes, I'll hold for the president," it's quite important, and you will see that phone call because it will impart important information. We don't get that. We just cut away from that scene. It's there because it pisses off Isaiah that Sam is receiving a call from the president. And you're sitting there thinking, "Oh shit, are we doing the Falcon and the Winter Soldier again?" Are we going to get another long lecture on how impossible it is for a black man to be Captain America because it's evil? No, we're not getting that. It turns out that Isaiah just doesn't like Thunderbolt Ross at all. And so they've, again, sensible decision as far as I'm concerned. They personalize that conflict. And so his objection is you can't be working for a man as evil and bad as that, as opposed to you as a black person can't possibly be working for the evil white man, which is an improvement, I think. But Sam says, no, it's fine because the country, and I quote, the country is a mess. Okay. We're not going to hear anything more about that, though, so I don't know how. And it's fine, though, because it's important that Captain America stands next to the president. He's invited me to the White House, and I insisted that you come along too, Isaiah. So they get in the limo, and they go off. And you're thinking, well, okay, it's a limo scene. They could have a good, important, meaningful conversation, filling us in on lots of important world information. They don't do that at all.
No, they don't.
They just sort of meme.
What?
Yeah.
Like
You
2
got a
minutes
nice
to that.
suit. What?
It's embarrassing. Like there's just like I think back to the Tony's introduction scene. It's the same setting, a car. It's just words. You could do so much more with them than what? Like complete embarrassment for all three of those characters. Nice suits though.
Yeah, Isaiah's suit looks really slick. I actually thought it was a good suit. It's my one positive takeaway from that part.
Very, very beautiful suit.
They were well dressed. That's all.
Yeah, well dressed. Good job, gentlemen.
The film keeps trying to tell us that the world is in shambles, America is divided, but we never actually see any of this. We don't see any riots, any protests against Thunderbolt Ross. Everything just appears to be normal. It's just a piece of the world building that I thought was missing.
Which, by the way, they should be. Like, if you saw the Hulk, this guy was like bringing tanks to like college campuses to, on his, manhunt because the Hulk was dating his daughter. Like, Thunderbolt Ross is not a good guy. People should be up in arms that this guy made it to the presidency. He was doing bad things. He was abusing his power, all for personal reasons. That is something that you would want to see people protesting him. That you would imagine things like that. Just like we said that, if there was a giant god coming out of the earth, that there would probably be cults around it or things like that. I would imagine you would actually build a world if we saw these things. So I'm sadly not shocked to see that they glossed over it entirely.
Yeah, because you even get there's a few scenes like this, but there's one introductory one with President Ross, and he says, because there's a time skip, and he says, we're coming up to the end of my first 100 days. This treaty's got to work. His big thing is that he's pushing for this treaty, which we'll find out about in the very next scene, when he's assembled all the world leaders. Well, he's not. He's assembled some of the world leaders in the White House to give them a speech about this discovery of adamantium. And he says, it's going to be absolutely revolutionary. It's going to do everything. It's going to be so important for defense and resources and all the rest of it. His treaty will ensure that there will be, and I quote, a fair and equitable distribution of adamantium all around the world, because what you do with massively important national defense assets is you give them equitably to the North Koreans and the Cubans. But his shtick is the treaty and the end of the first 100 days. And again, massive missing context. What happened in those first 100 days? What is the important? What are the riots? What is the social situation? Why is the treaty more important than anything else you've had to deal with? Why do you think the treaty is a good idea to begin with? All of these questions, and there is time in the movie to fill in this stuff. It just chooses not to fill it in. But yeah, we get to the scene with the big conference, and then mysterious things happen.
I'm just gonna add real quick.
Mysterious.
We get exposition for pretty much everything under the sun, except the things that really, really matter in terms of the world building and the continuity and whatnot.
Yes.
It's so crazy.
Well, this movie also breaks the functionality of adamantium, because it's supposed to be in the comics one of the rarest elements in the universe, something that's very difficult to synthesize, right, Sammy? And here it's just they've got like millions and millions of tons of the stuff that they're going to distribute to everybody.
There's few people on Earth who have the process of doing that. So yes, so the fact that they've already streamlined it so well is you've already broken it. That's one of the things that make Wolverine such a rarity, as someone was able to do that. So yeah, that's collecting
that much for his skeleton is supposed to be an incredible thing, and now they've just made
one, because his power helped him survive it, but two, in order, one, once it's set, it can't be remolded. I think that that was part of it. But yeah, too, there's like 3 people on the entire planet who know how to work with this metal.
Yeah, that's what made it
So-
unique. Like you were saying, the fact that he's one of the few people who can actually survive the process, but the material itself is super, super rare. It always made Wolverine like special to me.
Yeah,
Now we got this
but
island
I'm
of
also saying you
adamantium,
could
like,
drop off a big lump of it to any country, and they would be like, "All right, I mean that's great, but we don't know what to do with it." Like there's few people who can actually deconstruct it, melt it down, form it to something, because it is so indestructible to work with. Like you have to have precise conditions to form it to anything.
well, that's something they did in Game of Thrones pretty well, where there was no one who could make Valyrian steel anymore, so there's only a few throughout the realm. That's just a good way to balance out a particular item set. But with this, it's the MCU. Like, look at fucking Wakanda. If Killmonger didn't burn all those flowers, like, for all we know, everyone could have had the Black Panther power for now. Like, the balancing resources isn't something that they're really good at. They never have been.
The Wakanda point is relevant here as well, because one of the appeals of this adamantium deposit is that it is not controlled by Wakanda, which the film characterizes as an isolationist nation. There's a couple of little things about that. I mean, in the first place, the first Black Panther shows them opening up. The second Black Panther, they don't fully open up, but they are still open to being diplomatic and everything. So they're not entirely isolationist. Wakanda Forever also establishes that there are other vibranium deposits on the planet because the meteor broke up. We've just kind of forgotten about that because the Aztecs, I don't know if anybody remembers they even exist. And I think they'd have something to say about the giant statue sticking out of the ocean, but no.
Namor would have issues for sure.
He would have issues, and so you might think the Wakandans would be very invested in making sure people don't get the adamantium because it will devalue their own most priceless asset, but they are not in this movie.
They're treating Black Panther like it's Black Panther 1, like that possibly.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
Wakanda as we know it would be involved in this.
And the flaw, of course, is that for an isolationist nation that doesn't allow anybody else to have vibranium, Captain America has a suit made of vibranium. Bucky's arm is made of vibranium. There's vibranium fucking everywhere. If the Americans wanted to research it, use it for other things, find more of it, they could do it by the rules already established in the MCU.
Yeah, and wasn't the point of the original Black Panther movie is to get away from isolationism?
Yes.
And so
they forgot, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Just checking.
Continuity and all that. What a bitch.
It's literally the ending of the movie. Him going into the projects and he's trying to they're opening it up. It's something that needed to be addressed, and they just completely forgot such an important component.
This is why the MCU needs a reset. There's so many different things going on that the writers can't incorporate all of the loose threads into one coherent new story. Like it's too difficult a task for them. Although we're fine, pointing out all the flaws. It seems like the reviewers know more about the MCU than the writers do.
Did anyone watch Loki season 2? They
pride themselves on hiring people who don't know the material, so they brag about it.
Did anyone see Loki season 2?
No, I didn't bother.
I forgot about it.
No, I respect myself too much.
Exactly. Almost nobody watched that shit. It's crazy, but it's one of the most just realm breaking, multiverse cracking, world building, destructive things you can ever imagine. It's just and nobody even pays attention to it. Are they going to continue with Loki being Loki basically is at the center of the universe, responsible for everything that ever has happened and ever will happen? What? But that's pretty much it. Yeah, Loki is it's between Loki and Gaia. I don't know who's stronger. I can't answer. Legit. So I don't know if they're even going to continue either of those characters. So we just don't know what continuity is being respected, and we don't know where they're fucking leading. We don't know who the Avengers are. That scene where they said, "We need you to restart the Avengers." It's what? What do you mean restart? But I thought it really made me realize I have no fucking idea what's going on with the Avengers. And that should not be a thing.
You're trolling though, right, Brooks? Loki is
Loki
responsible
is
for everything.
Watch the EFAP Loki episodes. We tried our best to fucking.
Oh my god!
That's all I could say. We tried. And you get to see more of Kang being though probably the worst performance of Kang's of all that we've seen.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Avengers, Jesus, we get off on these tangents because of continuity so fast. Did we get to the part where the president drags Sam into the office and asks him to restart the Avengers?
That is where we are now, I think.
Yeah, excellent. I love that part because in about 10 minutes in movie time, he's going to tell him that actually he's not Steve Rogers, so therefore he can't get involved in all of this. But he is good enough to restart the fucking Avengers. I love that.
Well,
I didn't even
this
think of
movie,
that.
this movie has to stop gaslighting us, because Sam says when you passed the Sokovia Accords, you destroyed the Avengers, but Ross didn't pass the Accords. Like, it wasn't legislation that he signed as president. He was an ambassador to the United Nations, and multiple other countries signed it. Also, Ross didn't destroy the Avengers. I'm pretty sure like Zemo did that by getting them to turn on each other. It's like,
And
the
She-Hulk.
writers-
Go
yeah,
ahead.
the writers don't acknowledge this. It's as if they didn't watch the movie.
And She-Hulk said that the Accords were abolished. So it's like, which one are we doing, guys? Is it still a thing? Is it not? Like, it's like they're in completely, every single movie since Civil War has just tried to like skirt around the Accords. Nobody actually respects it, tries to work with it. And like the important point that movie made, you can't just fuck around and do all this shit for free. There's got to be consequences and balance. And now it's gotten to a point where I don't even know whether it's still a thing in the world building. They've said they completely contradicted themselves with this movie. But yeah, it's something that needs to be addressed in a way that Secret Invasion failed to, and now this movie failed to again.
And to continue on, so they do finally introduce adamantium next after that conversation, which and a little more on that conversation. I just find it fascinating. The script decides to actually bring up the Accords, like you said, and it really just kind of leaves it hanging there, as in like, hey, we mentioned it, and that should be good enough. We don't actually need to give you an answer for it about, you know, what do the Avengers do if I reform them and we disagree on how to tackle a scenario? And it's just kind of like, we mentioned it, you guys. And
I don't know.
We'll move on now.
I feel like they completely forgot the She-Hulk scene when they did that. So like, what are we expected to ignore at this point? Like, we're just guessing.
Yeah. God. So next, President Ross is giving a little speech introducing adamantium that they found on Celestial Island, and he's trying to get some new accords going. That's going to ally, some superpowers in the world. Well, I don't know if you want to consider Japan one. They essentially use Japan in this movie as the confrontation for the United States here, instead of someone realistic like Russia or China. And
I think it was going to be, it's supposed to be China quite
it
plainly,
should have
I think,
been.
but they figured that might, the Chinese are pretty sensitive to that kind of thing, and you won't sell your movie if you make them the first.
Yeah.
So the Japanese won't be offended. We'll
That'll
use them.
Do. They're chill. This movie's so cowardly in so many ways. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. So as he's giving that speech, he gets shot at by Isaiah, and there's a couple other people in the crowd too who start firing their guns. And so Colombian Falcon and Captain Falcon, they stop everyone, including this, and who helps is the security advisor to the president, who's this 5 foot, 80-pound girl who just kicks everyone's fucking ass.
Fucking hardcore. Holy shit. Are we going to talk about that chick? What the fuck?
I know.
Was that?
God.
What was that?
Indeed, when I was watching that, I was like, what the fuck is that?
I was
What is
mesmerized. Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is this creature? Like, she's just, it belongs in a fantasy film. Like, she's.
Initially, I thought she was like Ross's like second child, and I was like, "Somebody protect that kid!" And it's like,
"No,
"No,
she's
she's that
doing
kid."
here? Get this child out of here. Go to bed. Like, what is she doing here?
So what's funny is Shira Haas, the woman who plays her, is just goofy as Sabra, and she's supposed to be like the head of security for President Ross.
Yeah.
There's a line that they drop in there saying that she's like trained in the Red Room. She's one of the Black Widows. It's their way of saying, don't worry about the fact that this 4 foot, 80-pound woman is taking out 6 foot, 300-pound men with ease.
You could be a twig. Just say they were forward.
Oh my God.
She's
She
in the
went
comics,
to the
though.
Deadly Dwarf School.
In the comics, though, it makes sense how she's able to do what she does, because she's actually a mutant and like an Israeli superhero that worked with Mossad. She has superhuman speed, strength, agility, all of that jazz. So I don't know why they didn't just use her comic book background here.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because they can't explain what a mutant is yet.
Make her a mutant, and she goes from being fucking creepy and weird to super interesting and like justified. Like, that's all they needed to do. Instead, we have this distracting little twig smashing people like 3 times her size. It's it was horrible. It was so embarrassing. With no explanation, you just can't do that, man.
I think they also had to downplay the fact that she's an Israeli superhero because events occurred during the making of this movie.
Cowards.
And yes, and that leads lots of movie studios to be very, very cowardly when it comes to this kind of thing. So not only could they not make anything about like whether she is or is not a mutant, they also couldn't do anything with that part of her backstory. So they had to sort of go for, also, she used to be a widow. And I'm thinking, well, it's a little bit odd, and I'm not sure it's believable that an ex-Black Widow, someone who therefore has been mind controlled by a sinister extra like political agent, would be allowed to be the head of security for the president of the United States. I don't think that would work. But then again, we're having the same thing with Bucky when he becomes a congressman. Fuck no, is he going to pass vetting for anything?
She also wouldn't be as cynical as she was during the situation. She should have been one of the people that had an open mind about what actually took place. Like her and Bucky, or sorry, Falcon didn't speak up, but she could have been the one to at least been like, hey, like there's so much different forms of brain control, but they just never addressed that. It's kind of embarrassing. Like there's so many scenes in this movie where we have information of what they should be discussing or saying or doing, and they just don't. You have to kind of just sit there and watch it play out.
Indeed, because so she helps the boys stop all of the commotion. But if you remember that scene from the Winter Soldier, when Winter Soldier is running away from Captain America and he chases him through that building, it's pretty iconic, the imagery. It's when they bust out of the building and Cap throws the shield and Winter Soldier stops it.
Yep.
They try and replicate that in this, where Isaiah's running and Captain Falcon is actually chasing him through the White House. But Captain Falcon, being human, it's kind of boring, so he just runs down the stairs instead.
Oh shit! I'm just a human. Just like,
oh shit! I can't do anything
strange,
cool.
awkward scene. Like I'm just watching him do every step.
You see this old man super soldier jumping, and he looks kind of lethargic, so it's kind of funny.
Such a strange decision.
Yeah. But he does catch up to him, and the mind control's wearing off, and Isaiah, he's under arrest, and Sam convinces him to give up because it's just going to get worse if he doesn't, he says. And you actually do. The acting is really good here from the actor who plays Isaiah. Yeah, I felt for him when he was talking about his suit, like, don't scratch up his suit, because that's what he wore when he got married. Yeah, that was actually pretty good.
And the fact that I felt anything in this movie, I was so surprised. And then once he was out of it, I was like, oh, okay, here, back to...
Yeah, that's a testament to the actor for sure. Yeah,
100%.
Yep. He was fantastic. And right after that, we follow Sam Wilson as he busts into the security room to speak to President Han Solo. And and they are interrupted by the 5', 80-pound security advisor who runs in. And this is the point where Sam he knows that Isaiah is innocent. Everyone knows that something fishy is going on here, including the audience, because we, at one point in the movie already, Isaiah goes, oh, my phone's on the fritz. And we know that there's a bad guy lurking in the background. It's the leader from Incredible Hulk. And so there is no mystery at all, but this is supposed to be a setup to try and figure out what the solution to the mystery. We're trying to figure out what's actually going on. But if you've been paying any attention at all, you already know the answers to everything. But President Indiana Jones tells him that you cannot actually participate in this because you're not good enough. You are not Steve Rogers. And I just echo what I said a few minutes ago, that this fucking guy just asked him to restart the Avengers, but he is not good enough to actually investigate this situation at all, which is just absolutely fucking absurd.
That line is odd because he actually gives a better answer before that, because he says it's a conflict of interest for Captain America to do an investigation into his friend who's accused of trying to kill the president. I think that's sound, instead of telling him he's not.
Yeah, it's fine.
Steve Rogers. Yeah. But there's a lot of issues in that scene because Sam breaks into the president's bunker after being told to stand down. This is following his best friend getting caught trying to kill the president. There's no protocol. He's not arrested, or even at least like momentarily. The Secret Service just let him walk in there, which is unrealistic. But then Sam says Isaiah had no reason to kill the president, which is also bullshit, because in the previous scene, Bradley said he doesn't like or trust the president.
Right.
He's also spent decades imprisoned. because of the US government and still harbors resentment. So yeah, the writing is very flimsy in this entire sequence here.
Yeah, it's just really trying to move the plot forward and create some sort of conflict, but it does it so clumsily. So as you can imagine, Sam is indeed going to move forward with this investigation because, you know, fuck Indiana Jones. What we actually see next is them figuring out what exactly happened, why Isaiah attacked the president. And so Colombian Falcon, his little sidekick, is watching the CCTV footage, and he sees the image of Isaiah staring at his phone, and it just starts going off and flashing. So I hate to fast forward, but the conclusion really is, oh, wow, the man created technology to mind control people. That is the magic answer to what's going on. And you see them actually, see it happen. And then we have to spend another half hour of them figuring out the answer that it's technology. That's the big revelation.
Yeah, and it's another mind control thing as well. I mean, it's not. It's quite obvious. They've done it so many times at this point, and there are so many different ways it's happened. If it's not your first assumption, it really should be, because it's so
how many
obviously that's what it is.
Manchurian candidates do you need for you? You know, all the way from Loki and the Avengers, mind control's kind of been a big thing in the MCU.
It has, and there's the other problem as well, which is like, why are Sam and Torres even allowed to be doing this private investigation? Why have they not been? Because again, it's another reason why this film just steals from Winter Soldier, but just does everything worse. Winter Soldier, you know, Cap becomes a fugitive. He is hunted. It's quite an important part that he's not. He has to be undercover because it's a spy thriller kind of thing. In this movie, the same beat plays out. He's suspected wrongly by, you know, the people who are secretly in charge, manipulating things behind the scenes. But then he's just allowed to go free. He keeps his shield, he keeps his mansion, he keeps his armor, he can walk around, he can go visit Isaiah in prison to carry on this investigation. It's not until later that Harrison Ford says, oh, yeah, maybe we should think about arresting him. But by that point, it's way too late. But that is the first thing you should do. If you've kicked him out, then he should not be allowed to be carrying on this investigation. But he is.
Mm-hmm. So next up after that, Captain Falcon, he's driving around in his little truck, and he's attacked by Gus from Breaking Bad. In his second scene out of 3 that he's in, that totals, I think, about as much as Red Hulk, actually. I think he's in this movie all of 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, credit to Giancarlo Esposito. He is a really good actor. He's just playing that same character that we've seen over and over again. But, you know, there's still some spice to it. I still like it. They get in the tussle, and God, thank God, at least they don't actually make you think some 70-year-old dude is going to beat up the tank that is Anthony Mackie. He gets him a couple times with a knife and a couple blades or whatever. But Anthony Mackie takes him out with a boot to the chest, which seems pretty appropriate.
When you say, just for people who haven't seen it, to emphasize, when you say he gets him a couple of times with a knife and whatever, Anthony Mackie, who is not currently wearing his suit, gets stabbed with a knife, and then he gets stabbed with an axe, and he tanks both of these things, and it doesn't even seem to hurt him. It's only later then he'll say, he turns out in bandages, by the way, with blood seeping through them, but he's like, oh yeah, I was wearing a Kevlar weave.
Yeah, he says he was wearing a Kevlar.
I don't know. That's no.
It still went through. I mean, he was bleeding and shit. So
that scene is evidence of reshoots, though, because when Sidewinder attacks Sam, it's just a weird sequence because there are cars blocking the path, but there's nobody around. There's no civilians in the background that Sam has to protect. It's just really awkward. It just seems like they're using Giancarlo Esposito to like explain and streamline the plot in order to get Sam from A to B without it being rooted in character or organically in how the story should be
They
flowing.
put the rest of the world on pause when that happens, so you don't see anyone else there.
How you doing,
George?
How you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Thank you
Good.
for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. we are in the middle of discussing the plot of Captain America Brave New Worlds. We're at the part where Gus Fring, or Sidewinder, or Giancarlo Expositio, as he's being called in this stream, where he attacks Captain America.
Oh, is that the one where he stabs him with the tomahawk?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's the
yes,
one.
indeed.
Oh,
That's it.
yeah. How
Reflecting the kunais.
You just said it so nonchalantly, I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah.
I know, but it's like no super soldier serum, just a t-shirt and right in the gut.
Yep.
And no problem, it's like a holster. It's like, here, hold on to this for a second for me, please. No worries. And he takes it like a champ too.
He
Like
sure does.
anybody would, if you take a tomahawk to the abdomen, you just walk it off.
You just tank it.
Yeah.
Just move
You go,
on.
what's the matter with you?
Yeah.
It's insane what this film has done. I think, what was I it's like I guess I'm going too fast towards the end, but it's the same thing all over. I mean, they're treating him like a super soldier, except he doesn't have the super soldier serum.
Mhm.
He didn't have his armor on at the time, not the Wakanda tech, not the nanotech, not the Ant-Man helmet, not anything, just a shirt.
Yeah. They don't ever show him actually being a human. They just talk about it a lot. Like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
he's just a guy. He's just a human. But you don't actually feel that way throughout the entire movie. Like, he's
Yeah.
kicking everyone's ass. He fights the fucking Hulk and wins. Like, come
That's
on.
why
We'll
the
get
S
the
point was
scene
so
later, and
important
it's like,
earlier.
I should have taken the serum. It's like, what fucking
Why?
difference would the serum have made at this
We've
point?
been saying
Why?
that since the show, and we've never gotten a reason for it. And now it's gotten to the point where who cares? You're fucking more powerful than the syrup. You'd whoop Steve's ass in his
Yeah,
prime.
it's,
Like it makes no sense.
As you guys were saying on Open Bar, like he has Ant-Man's helmet, Falcon's wings, Iron Man, and Black Panther's tech. Like, what the Cap's shield? What the
Black
fuck else do you
Widow's
need, man?
He's trained in the Red Room. He trained in the Red Room off screen, apparently.
Good
Like,
Lord.
that was never his fighting style.
And he's got BLM to write his speeches for him.
Terrible.
And the guy is more preacher than powerful. I mean, that's primarily what he does. I mean, how many times did they actually say, I was just working on my video last night, and I was trying to look at my notes, and it's how many times did they actually say, this is Captain America? Did you know this is Captain America? That's Captain
It's
America.
like 80
That-
times.
in the first 25 minutes, like, okay,
Over and over.
we got it. You don't have a script. What you have is a bunch of checkbox queens who are like, hey, look, we made Captain America black. Did you see Captain America was black? Captain America is black. The black guy, he's Captain America. And the other black guy, he's Captain America. We have so many Captain Americas except for the real Captain America. We couldn't afford him, and we got rid of him the last time. No, I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
He would be expensive. Yeah.
Give it a few
So-
movies time. When they get desperate enough, he'll be back through the multiverse, because
will, of course.
this is not working.
Captain Hydra. That's what he will be.
Oh
They're
god, they
probably
will, won't
talking
they?
to him
Yeah.
right now.
They
Probably talking
probably
to him
will.
right now after this movie came out. They're in
Mm.
talks.
Weren't they supposed to do that originally? Wasn't Brave New World at one time when they were originally telling everybody it was supposed to be the whole run from the comic book series where Cap's Hydra?
Yeah.
That was originally, but it didn't go over well when everybody's like, really, you're going to turn Cap into a bad guy in the films?
To cleanse
They
my
s-
palate, I have the first Captain America on right now on this TV.
That's good. That's good. It's exactly what's needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is horrible. Number 35, someone was today, I was talking to a good friend of mine. He's like, what do you think of, number 35? He goes, the whole, have we reached peak superhero fatigue? And I said, what is your favorite MCU film? And he was like, Captain America, First Avenger. Okay. I'm like, if you had every film being of the quality of Captain America First Avenger, would you be tired? He's like, no. So I said, I don't think it's superhero fatigue. I think it's just fatigue from bad crap.
I think, there's so much bad writing and just so many bad superhero movies. It's almost interchangeable at this point. Like they are one and the same.
Superheroes are associated with bad writing now.
Yeah.
And people don't want to be able to see the difference. It's not just superhero fatigue. Most people who like superheroes have liked superheroes their whole life. You know what I mean? So it can't really be specifically superhero fatigue. It has to come down to the writing always.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier. It was like I never go into the theaters and go like I want this to be bad. It was like no, I want this to be good. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. I was like I'm hoping that you guys get this together. This is a medium that I've loved my entire life. The
Oh,
fact
for
that
sure.
you can't do that is the part that I find to be the most egregious thing in the room here. Is you just sit down and map it out. Just it was like have a meeting. Everybody who's writing a movie kind of talk about what has happened and then move from there. I don't understand why this is so hard.
Yeah, we certainly are open to celebrating even mediocre movies if they're fun, like Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I watched one the other night, The Gorge.
Oh, how was that?
I enjoyed the first hour and 30 minutes of it, the first hour and 20 minutes of it. It's actually a good Saturday night kind of like solid popcorn flick. I just don't like the overuse. It's like Jaws. Imagine if the shark in the Jaws movie had worked and Spielberg, how he stuck to the script originally, and he wanted to show the shark from the very first shot. Right? It would have been overuse. It was good fortune for him that it was an accident and he could only show it in the end. Well, there's an element to The Gorge. I enjoyed it. I just didn't like I don't want to spoil it. I didn't like the overuse of one particular element towards 15 minutes before the film was done, before you go to the finale. But otherwise, It was a good time. I'd watch it again.
I will watch that this week. Yeah, I saw it advertised. I was like, oh, that looks, and you're the second person I've seen give it an endorsement. I'll have to check it out for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So next up, after Gus Fring is taken out by Captain Falcon, the president is sitting down. I believe it's France and India. Is that correct? The leaders of France and
it's
India.
the axis of overrated cuisine is his enemies in this situation, and they're telling him off because he's lost control. He can't lead. They won't do anything without Japan also being at the table. And so that's kind of his incentive to get out of his bunker, even though there's potential assassins everywhere, which is something the movie doesn't really account for. You would think they would lean more into the paranoia, the fact that anyone could be mind controlled and activated at any moment, but they don't. He just gets up out of his bunker, and because he really needs to save his treaty. It's the one thing he gives a fuck about. He keeps saying it over and over and over again.
Yeah, and what's funny is essentially the bad guy's whole plan is to just make his Harrison Ford's daughter madder at him.
Betty's gonna be mad, bro.
She's gonna be even more pissed off now.
She's gonna hate you even more, bro.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we? What are we doing? This is what we've got. We've got from Thanos to fucking this stupid broccoli head.
Yeah, this is what it comes to. Broccoli head, dude.
I can't believe this shit, man. It's so bad. Fall from grace.
And this is the point of the movie, isn't it? Where again we're doing the Winter Soldier. So having he leaves his bunker, he's off to take action again. Sam and Torres are investigating. They spot the weird shit that happens on people's phones, and that there's some strange music that plays just before the attack. But they also spot that Isaiah had Harrison Ford in his sights, and he shot, but he missed, and he didn't need to miss. So something else is happening here. They trace the phone call, and they find there's a secret, empty old military base somewhere in Virginia. There's no transport links. There's nothing about it. I wonder if we should go there and go down into the basement where an evil super genius will have a grudge, just like the last movie.
Wow, just
and
like
that
Winter
is
Soldier.
exactly what we do.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. At least in Winter Soldier, it was revelatory that I forget his name now.
First time.
Yeah. He was essentially he was still alive. But he was connected inside the computers.
It's goofy as fuck in the Winter Soldier, but
it is,
and it's like, and then he like launches a missile at them as opposed to doing anything else. It's not a great scene. In the Winter Soldier.
It's a cartoon, goofy exposition scene. It's still better than this movie, though.
Oh, it is still
probably.
somehow better.
It's still better than this for sure.
Yeah.
Well, when they encounter him here, he says that hiring Serpent was necessary to kick off a chain of certainties. I have seen every possible outcome. But then he's consistently surprised by what happens. He keeps saying, "You've surprised me," which shouldn't be the case for one of the most intelligent people in the world who can predict all the outcomes. Also, the script has him say something really bonkers. He says there was 87% probability that you wouldn't look for me once I framed Isaiah. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? If you didn't include Isaiah as one of the targets, Sam would not have gone after him. Like, he's compelled to break protocol because he wants to save his friend. Like that, it's just the sequence of events and what he's thinking in that moment is just retarded.
Yeah, and it is probably worth laying out at this point. So the villain, the leader, is Stearns from The Incredible Hulk from 2008, and his superpower is he has like a head made out of broccoli, and that gives him a massively big brain, and he calculates all of the odds. So he's another generic sort of all-seeing super genius. Like, there's so many movies that do this, and as soon as they try, it never works. Yeah. But it doesn't work even just within the context of this movie. So his entire plan is, he makes predictions based on the odds. And when Sam and Tyrese go down into the basement, he's like, yeah, you did a thing that I didn't predict. It's like, well, okay, so you need to kill them because that's the only thing that can bring them back into line with your predictive plan, right? So naturally, what he does is that he sends some goons to attack them using little shock sticks as opposed to knives, guns, or anything that can actually kill them. They should die so many times in this scene, and he has every motive to want them dead, and he even sends people with guns after them later. But in this scene, because they're not allowed to die, they don't. They just zap them a bit, and then they get beaten. And this all preempts like the villain's plan falling apart because he allows the one unpredictable element to get the better of him somehow. It's just dumb.
Something that one of the comments mentioned was that in the Winter Soldier, the computer guy from the first Captain America movie, he expositions to them and explains his plot because he's stalling for time until the missile arrives. He's not doing it for the sake of it. Here, the leader basically tells them his entire plan for no reason. He could have just left and told his goons to kill them.
Yeah, it's so stupid, man. And they just need to be. We need them to be James Bond villains just so this scene can actually like progress. It's just so, and it's so obvious when you can see that.
Oh, the only thing the Winter Soldier didn't have, though, we didn't have the what did you call it yesterday, Platoon, on the show? The Lost Hobbit.
The little creature.
Oh yeah, the little hobbit child. Yeah, we didn't have that.
Gangly little. What the fuck? I still can't get over. Like, what?
Yeah,
I thought she was a kid.
Everyone did.
I was like,
why is this child in this movie?
70-pound girl is like kicking 200-pound grown men's ass.
Officially, she's 5'2". I don't believe the.
I don't believe that's
I think she is 5'2" in heels at most.
Heels, yeah. There's
the Winter Soldier had Scarlett Johansson, and I think this is a bit of a downgrade from that.
Oh
my.
She's tiny. She's very tiny. I mean, it's like, come on.
I think it might be the worst example I've seen of like a little girl taking out girls men twice their size, because it's become a trope in recent years, and like we want to praise the ones that do it well. Like, I'll give it its credit. One of the only good sequences in Falcon and Winter Soldier was Sharon Carter having a realistic fight scene where she actually like it looked like she got the jump on them. She's using her skills and her experience, and she's not completely overpowering grown men. And then we get this fucking Harfoot who, like, there's no way she's 5'2". That's a lie.
No, and heels. That's right.
No freaking way.
And to think about how many great movies we've actually had with women kicking ass. Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis, or you have like La Femme Nikita. I mean, they've shown it. It's been done and done well.
Atomic Blonde,
Salt.
As a fight scene that I just was blown away by, and I just wish people would look at that instead of bringing out these fucking Harfoot creatures.
And then you get her. I mean, it's like, what is she doing there? And especially when they show her framed, when they have the shot framed from behind, and you see Sam and Falcone are in front of her, you just notice, wow, this is this little pygmy, or it's a kid. It's like, and she's fighting. Yeah, it's like I felt like, go, come on, you can do it. Like someone should be, screaming from the side.
A sharp breeze, and she'd like fall over. Like she's a twig. It's completely not believable whatsoever. And that's why I was saying the fact that she was supposed to be a mutant, like that fixes everything. Just she looks like one. Just we need some type of answers here, because I know so many people were probably scratching their heads at that.
I'm sure they'll retcon it moving forward that she is actually a mutant, but the fact that they can't say it yet, it makes it even more stupid.
Awkward.
If that could possibly be. because you do have, granted, I didn't see it, but from what I'm hearing, you have this teeny tiny little person doing these outlandish things, and it was like, oh, if only there was like a simple explanation for this. There is, they just can't say it because they don't want to explain what a mutant is yet, and which is unfortunate because they have the rights. They could actually start introducing these concepts now. They already introduced what adamantium is in this movie. Why can't you just say, well, she's actually, you don't even have to say mutant. She's a genetic anomaly or something like that, other than the fact that, she went
enhanced.
to dangerous. She went to dangerous midget school. And,
that's a good.
Let's be fair though. She is a genetic anomaly. She's just looking at her. She's just.
I mean, to your point, Sammy, they don't need to mention that she is a mutant. Just have her fight at like extremely fast speed, and have Sam ask, "Does she have the super soldier serum?" And then somebody else say she didn't need it, and then that's it. Leave it as a mystery for the next film.
There you go.
Wow.
Have her dodge a bullet, do something. There's so many ways to set it up. They're just idiots.
Or
Isn't
hire
it
Peter
incredible when you
Dinklage.
have someone who's
They're
good
just
at their
morons.
job?
Yeah,
We should have had, like you said, Captain Wakanda actually having to perform without his stupid overpowered gear and earn the right to be called Cap. We should have had that, and we should have had the little freak.
Oh,
child,
that was
like,
the training
actually-
montage that was at the beginning of the movie when he can rip the flags off of Isaiah.
Ooh, I was like,
push-ups, this crappy push-up form, freaking struggling. Like
God.
all of it was crap, man.
It was.
Training
the
montages,
flags.
Ass.
we've seen so many great ones, and that was honestly one of the lamest ones I've ever seen. Just throw the shield and then throw it again. Throw it faster. Throw it harder. Okay, now you're better than Cap. Let's
All
go.
right, great.
oh, and then when he pops the shield, remember when he pops it just like Cap?
Get the
When it's on the- I know. I was like,
Honestly, that was getting into like Romulus territory. It's like, get away from that. That's Cap's fucking move.
That's
Yeah, I
Cap's
know.
move, dude.
How dare
What the
you.
fuck?
they did that a lot. I mean, all I think is to help the little girl. They just needed to hire Peter Dinklage. She could have beat him up. I mean,
Creatine.
it would have made sense.
Protein, chicken breast, proper trainer. Like she needed the works, man.
No,
Holy
it was
shit.
just. But it's the same way with his armor. It's like, can we jump ahead, or do you go? Because this is my first time here on Platoon's channel. Do y'all jump
Oh, yeah,
ahead, or do you?
feel free.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
it's
taking
totally
roughly in order, but it never really pans out that way.
Yeah.
Just how you
Well,
like it.
what was horrible for me is like you have the Hulk do that kind of like Hulk smash the clap where it sends that concussion wave and destroys a section of the inner White House. You just see it crumble to the ground. But Sam is like just fine. I'm like concussion damage. That may be armor and can take blows, but concussion damage. I mean, we have soldiers. There are even things realistically that happen. The concussion injuries, the brain injuries. But he just no problem. He can have the hell beat out of him by a Hulk who tosses tanks, who tosses helicopters like they're Tonka toys. But he's still there.
This is the problem with this movie is that Sam is more powerful than Steve Rogers, Iron Man, like even Black Panther combined.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've completely screwed up the power scaling.
The missile blew up. Remember, he stopped the missile. I'm like, okay, he's
that
dead.
was completely. It was a great opportunity to show the variety of his skill set and maybe other tactics he has. But no, he's just an overpowered monster that can just tank a missile now. The idea that imagine telling me that the Falcon from Winter Soldier would be face tanking missiles in a few years from now. There's just no scenario where that
So
should ever be a thing.
ridiculous.
So stupid.
So, I mean, I know we're skipping ahead a bit, but like the missile crisis scene with the compromised jet fighters is sort of indicative of one of the major problems with this film, because it's very underwhelming because we know that Sam is never in danger. He destroys incoming missiles with the shield.
Yeah.
He takes two of them out by hitting them with his shield, and then he destroys a jet by cutting its wing with his vibranium wings. Like the super soldier serum is just fuck the super soldier serum.
beside
Sam's
the
more
point now.
overpowered.
It's redundant
Yeah.
at this point.
But it's
Doesn't matter.
Joaquin Torres who does a sacrifice play by flying into a missile, knowing that he doesn't have the vibranium, and he nearly dies. Like he earned his spot as Falcon, whereas I feel like
Cap.
Sam.
They should be calling him Cap. Like that.
Exactly.
Seriously.
Yeah,
That
he
scene
made the
and the Isaiah
sacrifice
scene
play.
is the only time I actually gave a fuck. Because like I said, I didn't mind him as far as sidekicks goes. He gets a thumbs up. Like he's okay. He didn't annoy the hell out of me. And he actually really did have a proper moment. You know, he had the moment that Finn should have had in The Last Jedi if it wasn't for fucking Rose screwing it up, like that sacrifice play, you know? And I actually like that they committed to it, and he really had like real consequences for it afterwards. And it's a Disney problem, not even a Marvel problem, because they did the same thing with Mando. Mando should have died 1,000 times, but he's got Beskar armor, so fuck you. Like, that's pretty much how it goes.
Well, we're almost at 2 hours, so we'll have to start speeding through the plot here. But next up, I have written, well, I'm just kind of reading through my script for my video, honestly. Next, female elf from Snow White is going to talk to the inmates who shot at the president when she sees a guard acting all quirky as he pulls out his gun to shoot at those people. I thought this was an incredibly poorly edited scene, because so she shouts for him to stop and he pulls out his gun, and she absolutely could have stopped him, or at least saved one or two of them, but she waits until he kills all three of them that were sitting in that fucking room.
It's so bad.
It's so ridiculous.
She's not just a hobbit, but she's completely blind. Like, just like, how do you screw that up? You saw it. I don't know.
You know what's about to happen.
Yeah,
like,
she was betrayed by the editors, pretty much, because now it's on her. Like, you literally let those people. Blood is on your hands now, you freaking hobbit. Like, it's
not so bad.
Not only does she allow him to kill the people that were in prison, but she allows him to take himself out. Like, I think like 7 or 8 seconds passed. She could have disabled him so that he could be questioned.
Lives. Yeah, and this chick is in charge of protecting the president. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
It just reminds me of like when Trump was assassinated and we kept seeing, or almost assassinated, excuse me. But we kept seeing shots of the Secret Service agent not being able to holster her fucking gun.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That's you're never ever getting rid of that. That's her.
No, I'm never living that down.
Didn't one of them actually shoot themselves a few weeks ago trying to holster? There was clips of it. Yeah, it was supposed to be either a Secret Service agent or ATF agent. There was an agent. It was a female agent. She was trying to holster it and shot herself. There was a clip of it on X.
Oh my God.
Man,
it's literally when she's holstering, it's like
there's got to be good female cops out there, but there's so many shit ones that they're just screwing it up for the masses. It sucks. Oh, that must suck, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that scene was shit.
It's a collection of shit. That's the problem. How about we try to say, are there any good scenes?
Isaiah's acting is something we have.
Yeah, Isaiah's
I like the actor. I like
his
Isaiah.
wig. His hair keeps changing.
His suit
does.
They had nice suits.
Nice suits.
I think he had a lot of presence. That actor, I don't remember his name, but I think he has a lot of presence.
He was in the House of Usher. He was in the House of Usher. He was
That's right.
He was a big part of the House of Usher, and I really, really liked that show.
Oh, he was the detective, wasn't he, in that?
Yeah, a lot of people you just blank on it, but yeah, he's a great actor. He is. I wish he does anyone remember I can never remember Omar Mosley?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of black characters that he could have played that were legit characters. Instead, we have to invent like or is Isaiah from the comics, or is he invented?
He's like one spin-off comic that didn't sell well.
Okay. I still think he could have been used for a real character with a real legit storyline, because he's such a fantastic actor, and like you said, he's got such presence to him. Like I was paying attention during his scenes, and then the rest I was just like, I'm just sitting back.
Yeah, great actor. It was just a shame to have him there. What a shame.
Wasted.
It's like Harrison Ford. Do you remember the article that they wrote about Harrison Ford? Like, how did they get him to go into the MCU? I think he was like, "Well, I'm an idiot for money."
I'm paraphrasing. Yeah, I got so many little interview clips of him for videos, which is just funny. Like, what advice would you give to young people who want to follow in your footsteps? Read the contract.
Right,
it's great. He's a walking collection of quotable clips.
I just love that he's so blunt, man. We need more people like him. Really,
he's honest.
Next up, President Harrison Ford gets a call on Air Force One from the leader, aka the main bad guy in the movie. We're supposed to be kind of shocked that the bad guy is calling him or whatever, right along with Harrison Ford. But I mean, it's been telegraphed who it was since minute 2 of the film. So at this point, if you're still shocked, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. But because Harrison Ford's like, it's you. You were behind the assassination attempt at the White House, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, no shit, it's him. Like, this is for the audience, and it's just so bizarre because we're 5 steps ahead of the movie at all times. You know? I also made note too, the leader speaks with the same voice as the guy from Madam Web.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, he does.
Good point. Good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
It was a good thing you didn't know today was the day you were going to die.
Don't remind me of that movie.
It was a better movie than this one. I'll
It
give
was.
that.
Madam
So-
Web is hilarious. I'm gonna rewatch that
It's
one day.
great.
I'm never gonna like glance at this movie ever again. Other than making a video. That's definitely gonna happen.
Oh god. Oh shit! I lost my place. Where are we going next, Platoon? While
have we
find my
had?
place?
Bucky?
Are we Ross meeting the Japanese Prime Minister? Is that where we are?
Not yet, or maybe it is. I'm trying to find.
Yeah,
it.
that would be
around
that would be
here.
next.
You know,
'cause
just
after-
out of general curiosity, like, where are we in the movie? You know what I mean? Because like I have no point.
About 3/4 of the way through now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the
I was
rest
like,
is goes pretty fast because it's just like 2 action scenes. And
Oh, I'm
and-
not planning
covered
on
a lot.
going anywhere. It's just, you know, I as we had to reestablish for
but-
the chat here, I was gonna go see it on Saturday, and then
Mm.
I got the sniffles, and it snowed. So like those two things were enough where I was like,
You
yeah,
haven't seen The
maybe not.
Hobbit yet, then. You actually don't know how tiny this chick is. You just
I've seen pictures.
Oh, the pictures don't do
Won't
it
do it
justice.
justice.
You have to
Oh,
put
no
her in-
way.
You have to put her in context because when
She
on
needs to be
Open
in the
Bar
movie.
last week, Nia and I were there on Open Bar last week. I had a picture of her because I hadn't seen it yet. But when you actually see her in the film, in the context of the scenes, she's much
Incredible.
smaller. Like, whoa, way small.
Yeah,
She's a child,
the,
yeah.
the fact that we're all like baffled by her size is like should say something. to you.
6-year-old.
oh
Yeah,
god,
she's a
when
6-year-old.
later on in the movie when she's standing next to
Isaiah?
yeah, it's fucking mind-blowing how petite
Yeah.
this person is.
She's not even.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
not even. Yeah, whoa.
But for the moment, yeah, I believe we are at the point where the Harrison Ford, President Ross, goes to meet the Japanese Prime Minister, who is totally meant to be the Chinese Prime Minister, President, whatever, but he's not
Supposed to
for
be.
political reasons. This is where things. I was about to say this is where things start getting nonsensical. The entire movie is nonsensical, but they have a conversation. The Japanese Prime Minister is very upset because he has intelligence from his own intelligence people, which confirms that the Americans were actually behind the plot to kidnap, steal the adamantium. You can't kidnap it, it's not a person. To steal the adamantium. And Ross is very surprised. He doesn't know anything about this. And he says, why would I ever do that when I want this treaty to be signed? And the Japanese Prime Minister's like, well, I guess we'll never know. So it's war then. On the basis of our lack of information, they've decided we are going to move our entire fleet, our navy, to this giant dead god statue and prepare for war because we just don't really know what happened. This is the mature and sensible response. And President Ross, who has every reason to point this out and to say that this is nonsensical, I will do everything I can to prove to you that it wasn't us. It's like, oh shit. Well, I will also command my navy because I said at the beginning of the movie that this is time for us all to come together, but now I am a wartime president. So off we go to war for some adamantium that somebody stole for some reason.
Did you get the feeling, Platoon, that it was supposed to be China instead of Japan?
Oh, absolutely, yes. But I think it was a change they probably made quite early because
For
they're
money
aware of that
reasons,
kind of
yeah.
problem. Yeah, for money
Yeah.
reasons, exactly.
Can't
Yeah,
release
China-
this in China if they're the bad guy.
China only allows, I think, 10 Hollywood films or just 10 foreign films into their box office each year, and they will absolutely not allow you to release a movie there if
No way.
it portrays China in a negative light.
Yeah.
But even
Even
sometimes
though-
when you try to, suck the very small penises of the Chinese regime, they won't let the movie come in either because they did it with Shang-Chi.
So
And I don't
smooth.
think that ever got released in China. It's like, well,
Yeah.
we tried.
But that was because of what Simi Liu said about China. Like,
And they don't like him over there, apparently.
No,
Yes.
they don't. But what about the fact that the Chinese basically blacklisted Anthony Mackie on the posters? Have you seen those posters?
That is crazy. Yeah,
Well,
where
they
it's
do that
just
with all of them.
an outline,
I know.
silhouette of a
Yeah.
man.
They did it with Finn. They shrunk Finn down. They turned
They
Little
did-
Mermaid blue instead of black. They even
Black
did it
Panther?
with Black Panther. They put his mask on him when it's supposed to be off in the poster.
Yep.
It's blatant. There's no argument for it. There's probably a bunch I don't even know of.
China is literally the antithesis of what Disney thinks, or at least says it stands for, which is like
Exactly.
diversity, inclusion, and all of that.
But then they bend the knee constantly,
which makes them hypocrites.
Yeah, they're completely pathetic. You just have to follow that. Those three that I mentioned is like it's over. Just that's all the evidence you need. There's no reason to do that unless you're a complete hypocrite fraud.
Even their big theater poster that they showed, they changed the body of Sam. You can tell it's not Sam. It looks like a Chinese person. If you go look at one of the posters online, if you type Captain America Brave New World China poster, giant movie theater poster, you can see it. It's laid out. That's not Sam's body or his hair or his head. Very odd.
Lovely, lovely country. So after another talk about the treaty that's going wrong, Sam and Torres go to generic random military base where they have Gus Fring in custody. And there's a couple of things that they need to establish. They need to try and find a way of stopping the mind control signal from being released. So Torres just decides, I can do that. And he just does it. That's it. And then Sam has a chat with Gus Fring, and Gus says, I want a plea deal. I want immunity. And Sam's like, fucking no. And Gus says, okay, well then I want a reduced sentence. And Sam's like, maybe, but you'll have to tell me what you know first. Which, I said this on EFAP, if you are ever making a plea deal, do not give away the information before you've signed the contract. But Gus spills all the beans anyway. And he should know Sam isn't even in a position to be offering this arrangement because he's just been fired. He's not employed as Captain America. He has no authority in this situation, but the movie forgets that, so everybody in the movie forgets it too. And then Gus is like, yeah, the buyer, he told me everything. He told me loads of stuff, that he calculates all the odds. He arranged all of this shit. And yeah, when I get out of prison that you're totally authorized to send me to, I will kill you next time. And Sam's like, yeah, good luck. And then he walks off. And then he goes off to the aircraft carrier strike group for the next big confrontation where he encounters Russ, confronts Russ with all of this information. Why is it that evil Broccoli Man had your medical details in his secret lab? And Russ starts losing his temper a bit, but he reveals that he did all of this because he has a terminal heart condition and he needed to live long enough to prove to his daughter that he had changed. And so he took the heart meds from the evil Broccoli Man, who he betrayed because he also promised him freedom but didn't give it to him.
But Platoon didn't we have William Hurt as Thunderbolt Ross in Civil War? Was it when he was telling everybody that he was on the golf course and he suffered a heart attack, so he had to have a bypass?
So this is one of the major questions that comes up about this, because once you learn that the evil Stearns in this movie is behind Ross's entire career, basically, and he even has a line saying, I've been helping him for years, then it's one of those situations where you have to start going back and re-looking at all of the scenes he was in or involved in earlier movies and saying, well, what, is this now Stearns? Did Stearns tell you to do all of this? Because it doesn't make any sense if you read it that way, but the movie tells us that is how it worked, because he was manipulating everything with his super broccoli brain for fucking decades. I don't know why they thought to include this as a plot point. It only makes prior films worse if you assume that this is what was happening.
It's the same thing they did to Nick Fury, though, man. You can't look at any of his scenes in the MCU after Secret Invasion and Captain Marvel. Seriously, they're just shredded. We've seen it so many times, so why even be surprised?
But that's a great point. I can't remember how his eye was such a big deal.
Yeah, and now it's nothing. That's the most tame thing in the world now, compared to you were never a good spy. You're a fucking loser. We did everything for you. Fuck you, piece of shit. The Skrulls, it's all your fault. Grab it. All the Skrulls blame Fury. The entire show was about blaming Nick Fury for everything under the sun. It's insane. Well, they invented a fucking wife to make him a bad husband. I'll never get over that one. That's the one that just kills me.
It's like they deconstructed their own.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, Civil War sort of explained why he was so paranoid, and it was with that line, how did you lose that eye? It's like, I trusted somebody, and they betrayed me.
Last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye. It's supposed to be
a saw kitty.
Yeah.
And then you cut to the Marvels movie, and it was a freaking cat. It just destroys everything that he represented and everything that shaped him.
Next time, you better keep both eyes open. All those lines are stupid as fuck now. It was a cat.
I know.
Cat
Yep.
named Goose.
And that was a
You
good question from
stupid.
chat as well. Where the hell was Nick Fury given that Ross wants to reform the Avengers? Is he still up in space as he was at the end of the Marvels? I guess that's where he is.
He's
Is that
petting a
where-
cat somewhere
Yeah.
in space. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
He's fucking ruined anyway. Oh wait, no, he went to space with his fucking Skrull bitch.
Wasn't it Sword? Yeah, he went. He has Sword.
No.
He's running.
Wait, what's Sword's relationship to Shield and the government?
No idea.
Who knows anymore?
No.
Yeah, we don't even know what universe we're gonna be in the next movie. Like, who gives a fuck? It's all screwed, man.
But it'll star Pedro Pascal.
Yeah,
Playing
he'll be in there
everyone.
somewhere.
Yeah. So then they have to have this confrontation. There are obviously more problems with the idea that the President Ross is taking bespoke heart medication. The presidents have doctors. Other people make heart meds. You don't need this, but evidently he does. Also, going to war to prove to your daughter that you're no longer an evil, violent person, not a good plan. If everybody knows that his daughter is the thing he's trying to prove a point to, why does no one contact her at any point until right at the end of the movie? But it just doesn't come up. Why doesn't she contact him? He's been trying to call her all the way through the movie, and she doesn't respond to his phone calls. She will be seeing on the news that he's currently on an aircraft carrier preparing to launch World War III against the Japanese. Give him a call. But no, we're not ready for that to happen yet. So we get interrupted instead because a couple of jets are flying around in the sky. But before we get here, Stearns has gone to a random guy's house and killed him to steal his phone. That just happened.
Yeah, I saw this movie 3 goddamn times, and I was like,
Wow.
why did he do that?
Well, the reason he did that is because somehow this guy who's over in America, I think, is an admiral. And
Yeah.
because he's an admiral, his phone allows him to contact specific fighter jets flying over the Indian Ocean so he can play the suspicious music over the radio to them and take them over. And the reason that Torres's little program to block this doesn't work is that it doesn't work. He just says, "Oh,
It doesn't work.
Oh, it didn't work.
I guess it just happened."
Just like the how did he mind control them? Well, he created technology to do so. Good call.
Yeah, he just did it,
Hey,
and it
couldn't
worked.
Figure that
and
out. So,
just-
like, the details just don't matter to them. It's crazy.
It is absolutely mad. But that means, oh dear, the hacked planes, they're going to start a war with the Japanese. So Falcon and Torres have to fly off to try and stop them. I say that's not what they do, because you would think if you want to prove to the Japanese that this is all like a conspiracy and you're not in control, sending the Falcon and Torres to take out your rogue fighter jets is the best way to do it. But instead of doing that, they fly over to the Japanese planes and literally knock on the windscreens and say, "Hey, those guys who are currently shooting missiles at your ships, it's not us. Trust me."
That was
Okay.
odd.
So stupid.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, the Japanese don't believe them. And there's a bit of a fight during which, Sam is flying around punching missiles, but it's fine because he's made of vibranium. And Torres tries to fly around and punch a missile, and it's not fine because he's not made of vibranium, so he gets taken out and lands in the ocean and should be dead, but isn't dead. And I can't help but thinking that Sam has had 2 suits this entire time. So the only reason that his friend almost dies is that he won't give him his spare vibranium
It's
suit.
fucked up, man. It's bullshit. We saw Tony literally provide every one of the Avengers upgrades throughout the films. It's an important part of his character. Sharing the tech is something Wakanda should have done. And now that they're doing it, the one person who's also an Avenger and his literally best friends with this dude isn't going to help him. It's mind-boggling. It's a complete it's actually like a lot of damage to his character when you think about it. This is something Sam Wilson should really be thinking to do, especially like how much he's learned from Tony and Steve and everything they did as Avengers. This is his opportunity as a leader now, and he's fucking it up completely. Let his boy almost get killed. It's
But
such a
Jedi-
fuck up. Like a serious movie would have taken that seriously.
But he's got to earn his wings. He's got to, almost die.
Fucking get blown up by a missile. He doesn't have stupid magic Wakanda goo to fucking face tank it. Fuck you, Falcon. Like that's not. No.
This is
Would
the
you have
issue with
done
this
that?
entire sequence is that like Sam is not a good leader. He sees his crewmate as disposable, whereas Joaquin Torres actually like earns his spot as Falcon. He knows that when he takes on the missile or flies into it, he's going to be severely hurt. He might even die. He does it anyway.
Does he though? Because there's so when he's flying toward the missile, He's like, I've got this. And Sam says, no, I've got it. You stay away. And then Torres just does it anyway. And he runs, like, knowing what his suit is made of, he decides to punch the missile and blows himself up. But I didn't get my read of that wasn't Torres is prepared to sacrifice himself. My read of that is the writers are filleting themselves right now thinking, oh my God, it's like Icarus. Look, the angel is falling from the sky because he flew too close to the sun while Daedalus watches him. That's kind of what they were doing.
I've only seen it twice, but my impression was that he was trying to fire like at it, like with his gun. I don't know, like the gun attached to his hand. He misses, and then he flies into it, but maybe not. Okay.
I just don't think he was willfully going to sacrifice himself there. He was going to try his best, but I don't think it was like, he expected to survive.
Whether or not it was a sacrifice play, he is vulnerable in that moment, whereas Sam is never vulnerable throughout his film.
Because he's only got spandex and wings. That's it. Spandex and wings.
It's about the decision he made. It tells so much about what you are as a person. It's basically the Steve Grenade scene, but in the air. You know what I mean? And Captain, or how dare I call him Cap? Stupid Captain Wakanda, Falcon idiot, man. Like, he didn't do anything. He didn't earn anything in this movie. He was overpowered as fuck, and they just stapled everyone's traits onto him and forced us to like it and call him and want us to call him Cap. It's shockingly unearned when their only goal in this movie was to like have this arc of him being accepted as Captain America, so we can have something to work with going forward. But again, we don't know.
Let's not forget the original title of this movie was "Stupid Captain, Idiot Wakanda Man." And,
fuck, man, it's such a thinking about it now. After
it checks every box. It checks
Yeah.
every Disney and Marvel box. Captain checkbox, you know, that's pretty much.
It is. It's a very, very empty, cynical movie. I was going to call it a cash grab movie, but it's not going to grab any cash. It's going to lose lots and lots of it. There's one other bit of fuckery in this scene as well, because while all of this is happening outside, President Ross has Stearns on his earpiece. He's wearing a headset, and Stearns is in his ear, nagging him. He's like, yeah, get angry. I've been poisoning you, and you can stop taking those pills, but it won't make a difference because I'm behind everything. Get angry, turn into the Hulk. You can kill everyone. And the president's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Okay, take the headset off.
Get out of my head.
You will be fine. You can't say get out of my head if he's talking to you through fucking headphones.
And they're doing it the same way they were doing from Avengers. You know, we got to get him angry. The monster's going to be unleashed. That old crap. It's like
just resolve the issue of online bullying as well. Platoon. It was just like,
walk away from the screen,
stop making fun of me. It was like, really? Just maybe don't go on Twitter for a little bit and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Stupid things, man.
the thing is which is going to be better, Platoon? Is it going to be G20 that comes out in April from Amazon? Or is
I
it
would
gonna
not be surprised if that was a more coherent script, just because I think they know what they want to do with it. It'll be really funny and bad, but I think it will kind of cohere in a way this film doesn't.
Die Hard, the
vision for
Menopause
that
edition.
movie.
Yes. Die Hard, the Menopause edition is better than Captain Man.
It's not Die Hard, it's DEI Hard.
DEI. I like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That G20 trailer. What the hell? Like,
That
what
is some
she
second
doing?
channel content, if
Get
ever
back
there
in
was
the
one.
kitchen.
When is
Get
that
back in
coming
the
out?
damn kitchen.
April
April.
15th. April, yeah.
Oh, goodness. There's so much to look forward to. God.
Goofy.
But yeah, so this scene kind of I think we mentioned this earlier. This felt to me like it was supposed to be the original final battle scene, and then they changed their minds, and so like this all ends. Sam takes out the remaining rogue fighter. He kind of surfs it down, having ejected the pilot, and Harrison Ford eventually does take off the headset, and he doesn't get angry in order that the movie can be longer. So it just ends randomly. The war is averted, and this is where we pick up with Bucky. So Sam is in hospital.
Wait, Platoon, you can't skip over his scream, man. Broccoli Man's scream is epic.
Yes, I put that in my review.
It's up there with the guy. Remember the dude in Dominion, the scream that he does? It's that fucking category, man. It's so embarrassing. I do not know why they shot it that way.
He was trying
could
to
have just
imitate
not
Kirk.
included it in the movie if that's all you had. Like you didn't have to see
Just
him
cut it.
scream.
Everybody,
we know he's mad. We can assume that, but didn't need to see it.
God.
I think all of them try to imitate Kirk from Khan.
They fail.
They haven't, yeah, I know.
Because you would think that would be your moment, right? That's this is my they're never going to replicate it, but yeah, if I had a Scream that I would want to emulate, that would be the one, right? That's the. But
There's a
yeah,
lot of
never mind.
iconic screams in cinema history. That's not one of them.
Yeah. Nope, that was no Wilhelm scream. No.
Oh jeez.
Oh, hold on. I might even have got it.
Oh please,
Oh boy.
I think I do.
give me any excuse.
Probably
not to
get in
watch this
trouble,
now.
but fuck it.
Is this the point when he turns on that little device and kills that seal? Or
Yeah. Next. Yep. Oh
This is
boy.
it, right?
yeah,
Is it?
I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. He's shaking.
Wow, wow.
It's worse than I remember. It's worse than I remember. That's so bad. That's going in my video 100%.
Yeah, I
He
put it in
got
mine
the
for
music
Oh
in
my
him.
God.
That is that was beautiful.
He
They
must be
filmed
hard
it.
up for work.
They stuck it in the movie. They thought, yes,
Yeah,
it'll
That's
do.
the one right there.
This is the shot. We got it, guys.
This is
Wrap it
the
up.
shit. We
How
gotta
many
put-
times
it
did
up.
they shoot it? That's the point.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Nope, no, we got to do that scream again. Come on, one more time. No. It's like, how many times are we going to shoot this? We're just fucking with it. You just keep trying.
That's why it makes me wonder with bad takes, where it's like, how is this possibly the best take you had of that? How? Unless you just didn't have another one, because there's you flip a coin, you get something better than that. Like, you can't get much worse.
Well, considering how many reshoots and rewrites they had to do, I'm sure they didn't have time to really
Think about
overanalyze
properly,
it.
man.
Oh, you didn't hear the latest? The director saying, "Oh, we only did some pickup shots. There's no reshoots and
So
all." You know.
crazy.
He is lying through
I
his
know.
eye.
It didn't cost 300 million or more.
Yeah.
His
No.
nose is growing as we speak. He's just like, that's some bullshit, man.
He's like, we
You
did
can
2
see
weeks
it.
of pickup shots. That's it. Every film does that.
I recently watched The
Uh.
Rise of Skywalker again for the first time in years, just for context for EFAP, and I'm not sure which one's more of a Frankenstein, that film or this. Like it's close. It's so butchered, and you can just see like how stitched together with duct tape and like pocket lint it was. It's just this terrible, terrible movie, man.
It is. But yeah, this brings us to Bucky's cameo in this movie.
Oh God.
Um,
Oh, sorry.
So yes, he's we arrived. Torres is in hospital. He's had many operations. His heart got restarted, and Sam is watching him. And Bucky, in comes Bucky wearing a suit, and
The
they have a
Hydra
bit of a chat.
assassin. Yeah, the Hydra assassin who killed Tony Stark's parents and's got a hit list longer than Marvel.
Yeah, his hair
running for Congress.
His hair just got slowly crappier since the Winter Soldier, man. I don't know
I
what they're
know.
doing to this dude. I hate what they've done to Bucky.
He should have
Well,
been Cap.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, we
tells
all
Yep.
he tells Sam, Steve didn't give you the shield because you were the strongest, but because you are you. Like,
You're
what does
just
that
you.
mean?
What does that
Because you're
fucking mean,
so
my
vague.
dude?
You're human. He followed that up with you're human, you know.
Yes.
You kinda know what it
something
means.
to believe in, but you make people aspire to
The
something.
context is this conversation again around the serum, because this movie doesn't understand what the serum is and what it represents, and like how Cap was given it and what made him a good person as opposed to the shield. Bearing in mind, in the first Avenger, you know, to be considered a candidate, he had to be put through all of these tests, and he was chosen because even before he was big and strong, he was the kind of guy to jump on grenades to save his friends. Like that was always the point of his character. And the reason he's someone to look up to is that he's the best, like he's the best human person, and he is given, as many people wish they had been given, the power to actually affect his good nature on the world. And he's still vulnerable, and he's arguably the weakest of the core Avengers cast because he's still human. The serum just gives him more abilities. That's what makes him the kind of person that you aspire to be. But the real core of his character is his moral worth and his moral virtue. This film doesn't understand that. So they have this conversation about the serum, and Sam's looking at Torres in the hospital bed, and he's like, "Yeah, I should have taken the serum, like Steve." And this prompts Bucky to say, "Yes, no, it's not about the serum. He gave it to you because, you know, people. You're like people. You're human." Okay. Kind of defeats the object, though, when you're also invincible because you have a vibranium suit that can use purple force fields and fucking shockwaves and sonic boom weapons. Like this, you've defeated your own point, and it almost cheapens Captain America's own character to say that the serum is in some way something to be shunned. As though, in a way, you're less of a person because you took it. which
It's
I
so
don't
lame how they're
think is a
taking
good
that
message.
approach completely. I completely agree with that.
Do you remember in the first Avengers movie, Cap and Iron Man are having like a discussion where they're essentially fighting with each other, and Cap says, "Big man in a suit of armor, take that off. What are you?" And Iron Man responds with, "Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist." Then Tobey says, "You're a lab rat, Rogers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle," which is not true, as we
They're
mentioned.
both talking shit. That's why that scene is brilliant.
Yeah.
Like they're
But when
both
you-
absolutely talking shit.
But it's
Not true at all.
But then when you look at this moment, Sam isn't special. He is the big man in a suit of armor that Cap was deriding in the first Avengers film. Like, because if you take that off, what is he? Nothing. He
That's
is
such a
purely
good
just a suit.
Yeah, he didn't
You're
have
right.
that moment, like you mentioned, to actually earn it. He needed that desperately, man.
Guys,
There's a
saw that
sad fact
comment.
that comment
point
was
is
lethal.
flying overhead.
That comment was lethal. But the sad fact is that they, for all the respect they say they want to give the characters, they tokenize the character in the end. When you think about it, look at what they have lowered him to. He can't do anything on his own. We're going to pack him in this armor. We're going to make up some excuses. That's not how you portray Captain America.
That's what they do with Mary Sue's. That's
Exactly.
how you treat Mary Sue's. You boost them up because the writing can't do it for themselves.
Exactly.
And it's so frustrating to watch with these characters, man. And Bucky has gone from being such a fantastic character in terms of his potential to being Falcon's spokesperson. Because in the show, a lot of people seem to forget. He's like, "Oh, I got to apologize. Me and Steve didn't know what it was like giving the shield to a black man." What the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? What is it? What does him being black have to do with the shield and him being worthy of it? It's like they just throw out the lines. They don't actually tell you a story. The buzzwords, they want to fucking get pat on the back for it, but they're not even good at their own goals in terms of telling
it doesn't work with his character as established. We like we could go on for hours about how shit Falcon and the Winter Soldier is, but to have Sam say that, Sam whose character backstory is that he was already in service. He'd already taken up that mantle. He was a pararescue guy. He was part of the armed forces. He was a combat veteran. He didn't have those qualms then. The MCU is full of soldiers who are diverse, all kinds of diverse. It's full of characters who are all kinds of diverse. Did Rhodey have a problem being a black man elevated to the status of like that?
Tony didn't know what it was like giving a black man an Iron Man suit. Like, imagine him fucking saying that. Shut the fuck up.
The character who speaks the line doesn't believe the line, because if he believed the line, he wouldn't have had the backstory that he has in the show. So
you're right, but that's why, again, I think this is how Hollywood, or a portion of Hollywood, especially Disney and Marvel, show where true racism lies. It's in their studio.
Yeah.
It's when you really think about it.
You don't have to make it the only like part of their character. Like, a lot of people treat Blade like one of the first superhero movies that they've seen, and I can go far back as Meteor Man. That's the first time I saw a black superhero. Most people don't even know. Yeah, most people don't even know who the fuck that is. But there's actually a story. There's a character. There's powers. It's fun. It's not just the fact that he's a black superhero. That there's more to it than that. It's so lame. It's never worked. Never has. Never will. And they just don't get that, even in this day and age when we have so many fucking examples. This whole fucking MCU started on character, Tony Stark's charisma, and everyone who performed and pretty much winged Iron Man 1. Like, the fucking movie is like pretty much had like no script, right? Like, it's just talent being put together, and they've lost sight of that completely. We don't need crazy Wakanda juice and every fucking it's Gaia all over again, but with Falcon, and I just don't understand how they're repeating these stupid failure mistakes.
And what's sad is that Falcon was a great charette. I enjoyed it. I loved Falcon as Falcon.
Top tier side character.
Hell yeah.
That's it. He didn't really need. We didn't need much from him because we knew what he stood for. We knew wherever Steve went, he was going. He was just right. Like, he was a perfect side character. He really was. I just don't know why they couldn't just do something with that, or respect that at least. But he's black, so we need to fucking go and like do the diversity approach. It's so fucking lame.
Indeed, we do. Speaking of massive injustices committed against black people, Isaiah is still in prison and he's on death row,
which is fucking crazy.
Because he didn't kill anybody.
He didn't kill anybody, but that's how intelligent the script is. He's on death row
as well.
No investigation. They have all this evidence.
Well, this is the major problem, because like, even at the beginning, I don't think he should have been put there, because, you know, if you're on death row, maybe then during the discovery process, during the massive legal hearings, it might come out that President Ross committed lots of illegal experiments on him and therefore fucked him in the head, giving him an insanity plea and tanking Ross's election campaign. But the second thing that makes it make no sense is that since he's been on death row, someone has gone in to try and assassinate him, and they know about the mind control shit. So there's no reason for him still to be on death row because they know that he was being controlled. They know that he wasn't guilty. But the movie wants like this to be a kind of ticking clock that it sometimes remembers exists. So you get a little mention on the news. Oh yeah, he's still on death row, which means
It's
we
a
have very
ticking
little
clock,
time
even
to solve
though
the problem.
death row, someone being on death row
Takes
takes
20 years.
years.
Yeah.
20 years to die.
The investigation wouldn't even been planned yet alone done. Like it's just it's so stupid the way
He didn't have a hearing, a trial, nothing.
Yeah.
But you forgot the one key part after the Bucky scene, Platoon.
Oh,
Remember, the little hobbit was hot for Bucky.
Oh yes, the child
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to fuck the
Yeah.
fucking 100-year-old man.
She was
That
hot
is
for him.
so creepy.
She turned around and was telling Sam, "Oh,
my
what did she
God.
say? Something like good
posture.
looking, good posture, good hair, something like I could
Nice
do."
ass. She just wanted.
It was
Yeah,
like
and
What?
Sam tells her he's 110. She's like, I can work with that.
I know, and I was like, man, I
Why?
feel really weird watching this movie with
She's
this little
like
kid.
12. She looks like
Yeah, I
she's a
know.
child. Like saying this. Like, did they not like? How did they not? There's no self-awareness when it comes to these people. Like, you've got a literal child here feeding after a 100-year-old man. Just cut it. Cut the scene.
Ugh.
but yeah. So while all this is happening, Sam's friend, who I don't, does he even have a name? The bearded guy. He's been investigating the heart medication. And he's learned something very important about the heart medication. It's got gamma radiation in it. As you know, that's a great thing about heart medication that gives you terminal cancer. But he goes to, he's like, oh, I've got to go and warn people about this. So he walks off up a hill. And who should be walking up the hill in the other direction? Why? It's fucking Broccoli Man. He's just turned up. I guess he predicted it using his massive broccoli brain. He knew the odds told him that this man would be walking up in this direction, up this hill, rather than using his phone for at this precise moment. And he zaps him with a special sonic gun, which is powerful enough to actually stop people's hearts. And if you watch that, then you realize that back in the underground prison scene, when he needed to kill Sam Antares, he had that gun and he didn't use it. So great. And it doesn't change anything either because they already know where this is going. It doesn't delay anything because we just teleport at that point. Ross gets hold of his daughter on the phone. And he's like, yeah, I made some mistakes and I want to change. Would you like to go for a walk one day? And she's like, yeah, maybe. And then he's out to give a press conference, which is the setting for the big finale of the movie.
Finally.
Did that scene bug you when he started turning into the Hulk? Did you notice that there was like fire or flicker of fire on his suit? I'm like, what is he, the devil? I'm like, I never saw a Hulk like it was burning his clothes.
He had
What the hell?
embers coming off of him, and it was the crappiest Hulk transformation possibly ever. It looked terrible.
So the reason it looks like that is Red Hulk has all the superhuman upgrades of regular Hulk, but he also gives off gamma radiation the angrier that he gets. So he's different to the Hulk in that regard.
Okay, didn't know that.
The fact that we can just make Hulks with some fucking pills, man, or make Hulks with pills now is in all the ways they've disgraced this character in every way.
Look at how many Captain Americas we have now. We have at least 3.
Look how many Hulks we have. We got Hulk, She-Hulk, Scar, Abomination. We got Broccoli Hulk. There's probably other missing.
It sounds like you're going to introduce Amadeus Cho.
Yeah, he was supposed to be in this movie.
But what about the other 2 characters that were cut out of this? I forgot the ones that they had the toys for in the Happy Meal.
Diamondback and someone else.
2 girls. Yeah, I can't remember them. Sasha, say something. No, not Sasha.
But it is at this point that the villain's ultimate plan and motive is revealed, right? So having been walking up a hill somewhere, he now teleports and he's at the press conference just outside. He goes for a meeting with Sam, who's just sitting around waiting for the plot to catch up with him. And Broccoli Man says, you foiled my plans again. So now I have no choice but to turn myself in to get what I want. This is not, in fact, true because him turning himself in makes no fucking difference at all. But the reason he's done everything is because Russ betrayed him. Russ promised him that he would be released and redeemed if he helped him, but he wasn't released and redeemed. So he wants to destroy Russ's career and his reputation. Think of all of the things he already knows that would already have done that. He didn't do any of those things. He could have revealed the illegal experiments. He could have revealed the gamma radiation thing, the red hole potential. Could have revealed all the bad shit that he did, like in Nam or wherever the fuck he was. No, he has very specifically to goad Russ into turning into Red Hulk during his press conference. But I'm not entirely convinced he needed to be there to do this, because he plays a recording of a phone call, an incriminating phone call over the over the speakers.
He takes a cue from Batman in Batman Returns and has it play over the speakers. And I was thinking that too. I was like, I don't think turning himself in, even after 3 rewatches, I was like, maybe I missed something, but I'm pretty sure he didn't have to fucking do that at all.
Well, no, because Russ is already getting angry by the line of questioning taken by the media, understandably. So he's already hulking out. This extra thing is just another step to try and tie events together that have already kind of been tied together. And end up making it make less sense than it did previously, which is quite impressive because it already made no sense. But this means, of course, that he turns into the Red Hulk and starts Red Hulking out. And it's the setting for our final fight scene.
Our bullshit fight
now,
scene.
Can I ask this? So in the comics, the Red Hulk has a very distinct quality about him as compared to, Bruce Banner's Hulk, where Bruce Banner, the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. Well, the Red Hulk, the angrier he gets, the hotter he gets. Did they have anything like that in the movie?
Not explained, no.
Not explicitly. There was what George mentioned, where we see like embers and flames sort of emanating from him briefly during the transformation, but visual reference. Nothing else beyond that.
Okay, that's what sparked my intrigue, was when he mentioned the embers and everything. I was wondering if that was going to come into play at all. I could see, like usual, my expectations would not be met in this. Thank you.
No, sir.
The ending with Ross turning into Hulk is so contrived, because like while he gets agitated by the reporters asking him questions and even Stern revealing that he'd been working with him, it's actually his own Secret Service trying to pull him away that truly angers him, because he's offended that they're trying to pull him away. Then they start firing at him, and it's like it's game over.
Hilarious.
There's even a time where his assistant is saying, "I can't let you," and the words just trigger him. He's like, "Let me." Like it's pretty. I'm just like, it's literally his own crew that pissed him off. It's so stupid. Like Broccoli Man, like Platoon said, has no reason to do any of this shit. So many other options he could have taken. And then his own crew is the one that pisses him off. It's so backwards. I don't know how they write movies like this. If you pay attention to it, it all just falls apart. Where'd he go?
George?
Yeah.
I think connection issue. But Platoon, are you muted?
I am not.
Oh, I saw your avatar's mouth moving.
Yeah, no, I realized that I'd hit the wrong button. It's been a long day, okay?
Yeah.
To go through this movie for the 4th time.
I can't even imagine. Just hearing it now, my head is spinning. And not like in a good way, like, oh my God, I can't, like, I was able. Yeah, well, I also, like, I've been able to, like, piece by piece what you guys are telling me and sort of like, visualize the concepts in my head. I have like the general idea. It was like nothing about this other than like a couple of things where I was like, oh, I'll watch that to see what you guys are talking, mostly because I want to see the dangerous midget.
Yeah.
That's really my only kind of like takeaway from this. But like otherwise, I was like, oh, even the things where I asked about like Red Hulk, things that might want to like spark my interest, was like, I got nothing.
No, you'll be disappointed. You'll basically be like, wow, we get a 2-second visual representation of something that could have been a really cool concept to explore, but they don't explore concepts when it comes to the Hulk. He's just a key to Django whenever. That's it. And it looks terrible. It looks really, really, really bad.
Well, that's another thing too that I wanted to get at is, we kept talking about like character assassination of all these characters in the original MCU. Like I was all character driven and everything, and like sometimes you don't go to movies for that. Like when the Michael Bay Transformers movies came out, I never went like, oh, I can't wait to see like the character development of Optimus Prime. I went to go see giant cars that turn into giant robots and like fight each other. Like it was like I knew what I was getting for, but the effects at the time were enough to hold me over and go like, yeah, it's passable. This is great. It's not the greatest movie ever. It was like what I've been seeing from Disney Marvel is they don't even have that anymore. So a lot of their CGI looks like crap. And so it didn't. What I saw in the trailers, it doesn't look much better. So it was like they don't even have that going. So
They all look like television shows now. They don't feel.
Yeah.
Well, at least they don't, to me, feel cinematic. Like they're shot like films. They feel
The
just like another streaming series.
The fight scene in Civil War at the end in the silo with Bucky, Cap, and Tony is probably one of the best fight scenes in the entire and all of the MCU. Anything they've ever done. The choreography, the lighting, the way they put it all together, and how much storytelling is going on. Like they've earned it, and it means so much to all three of them and their journeys. Where you compare it to this, it's just you don't care ever. You're just waiting for them to finish. It's just a light show.
But you make a good
nothing is
point.
earned.
It is, but you make a good point in that
Mm.
Civil War scene. How many times did we see little snippets ever since we were introduced to the Winter Soldier with him in the shield?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
over
it's
and
like
over again.
waiting
There's so
for
many,
it.
and even at the end, Tony asked him, "Do you even remember them?" And he says, "I remember
I
all
remember
of them."
all of them. Yeah.
That's such an important point. The fact that it lingers on his mind, and the only good part of the show was the little section of Bucky having the therapy. And I was just like, let's do this. Let's actually explore Bucky's pain and get a redemption arc through him becoming Captain America and doing these good deeds. But he's not black, so fuck him. Like it's so frustrating, man. This is their thought process.
Yeah.
And the final fight of this movie is infuriating when you think about the actual context of the MCU. So obviously, Captain Falcon defeats Red Hulk. He does it with the power of words, by the way. But beforehand, they actually have a duel, and he gets the better of Red Hulk. It reminded me of the fact that before this movie, in the first Avengers, they had Thor fight Hulk and Cap kind of stay away from that situation. He also stayed away from Iron Man versus Thor because he just isn't powerful enough to engage in that kind of combat. The scripts were intelligent enough to keep him away.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, you have a character we are constantly reminded is human, just through dialogue, though, not through actions, of course. But he actually beats Red Hulk.
Yeah, we just got off a conversation about how he didn't take the serum.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's fighting Red Hulk. Turns out vibranium can pierce Hulk's skin. So that's a rule that I don't imagine they will keep. It means like you'll never be able to have Hulk fighting any Wakandan.
Yeah, they've screwed that up now completely. They have to stick to that, but they probably won't. And
The bullets don't.
He doesn't just beat him; he tanks so much damage in so many different areas. He should be shredded. It's like that's why I brought up the Mando thing. They treat armor like you're invincible once you're in armor. They don't respect the physics behind it. And even if like vibranium shit, I said like we have to basically treat vibranium or anything from Wakanda like magic at this point.
Yeah,
and even then, it's not consistent whatsoever.
Well, no, because like, so at the end of the fight, Red Hulk rips one of Falcon's wings off, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So like on the one hand, vibranium is incredibly powerful and impervious to everything, except where the plot needs the fight to take a different direction. In which case, no, actually, Red Hulk can rip a vibranium wing off. Then it's different. And trying to keep track, they don't treat it as a rule anyway. So it's basically a soft magic system at this point, which is not great when it's a really important, valuable material.
Exactly.
Not at all. But what about when he was pounding him into the ground?
Yeah, your feet, his ankles, you're done, man.
Come on. It's like your feet don't have armor on them. Those are snapped. Those are pulp. But nothing. He's like, I'm okay.
They could have shown him reveal tactics or gear or any type of technology to account for these things. Like, oh shit, I have to, account like cover for his legs or any of these things. But they just treat him like he's invincible. Even Iron Man doesn't like. Iron Man would have way more tactics that he's employed.
He had to have a Hulk Buster in order to confront the Hulk.
To find him. Yeah. Bear in mind, despite while Sam does have vibranium like in his wings to be able to take in the impacts, part of why Black Panther is able to use his vibranium so effectively is that he's also a super soldier because he takes the flower, the Wakandan flower, the herb, right? And that sort of augments his physical prowess. But Sam doesn't have that. His leg should be broken. His hand should be broken.
Every bone in his body.
Just the fact when he swings when the Hulk swings that flagpole and he grabs it.
Oh,
okay.
God.
Oh, he grabs it with his hand.
Right. It's like, okay, you got the armor. What's that going to do for your legs, your arms that just snapped? Because the guy just threw a helicopter. The Hulk just threw a helicopter. I think, the little pole. Yeah, no.
I think one of the most impressive things the MCU did that doesn't get enough credit for is developing unique fighting styles for all of their characters. Like Cap had a distinct fighting style, really high paced, charging down with a shield. Black Widow had her style. Everyone had a unique skill set and pretty much overall fighting style.
Yeah,
The
that's out the
fact
window.
that it's completely out the window. But the fact that they just gave him little pieces of everybody else, he's lost his identity. I would have liked to see. I want to know what the real Sam Wilson would have done to take on a Hulk. It would have been a way more interesting fight.
So, we talked about vibranium and how like now it's just this crazy metal that does basically anything. So it's supposed to disperse the energy, right? So like it is a perfect shield.
They showed that.
When they show Red Hulk punching the shield, the initial shock of it should protect Sam from that, right? There was still a massive force behind it that wouldn't stop everything. He would still be moved.
Yeah.
Like there was it was like it's taking those details into the equation that like make this so infuriating. Like he should still go flying because of the force behind it. He's just not going to incur any damage from the initial contact. That it was like it's when Captain America would like jump out, he wouldn't like use his shield. He put it under him. So the initial shock of that, he would still have to do something with the momentum and roll, and so that shows that he doesn't like break any bones. Well, it was like he would still have to do something with like the Hulk-sized fist attached to to the shield.
There's plenty of moments in this big fight scene where like he gets hit by Red Hulk and he does get sent flying. So like evidently it hasn't absorbed all the vibrations that it has to absorb for him not to die, like when he lands at supersonic speed. So it's not consistent in any way.
Yes,
not at all.
But so the fight sort of grounds to a halt more than ends, I'd say. So there's a bit. So Sam gets one of his wings ripped off, but by this time he's been charging his stupid fucking vibranium shockwave power.
Did
and
you
so
notice how weird the cut was? How he's just suddenly under the rubble. They go from exploding, and then suddenly there's people surrounding them, saying, "Hey, get up, get up!" And so the amount of rubble he's under should have killed him.
He stabs Red Hulk with his one remaining wing and then triggers the shockwave thing. You could make the point that if the wing is inside Red Hulk when that shockwave goes off, then he's just going to explode into lots of small pieces, but that doesn't happen. Yeah, there's just an explosion and a cut, and then Sam's under rubble, and Red Hulk is also under rubble, but when he gets up, he's still Red Hulk. Oh no, time to win the fight with words. Hey, don't you remember? This is where the cherry blossoms are that you used to walk with your daughter under. Do you really want to be angry still? No. Okay, and then he de-transforms, and that's it. That's the end of the fight. And he sends himself to Azkaban.
They have him say that you can beat me and you can destroy me with one punch, and it's just like, no, he can't. Like we've already.
He tried. He cannot.
You know what I mean? Like you can't. Like they just. Why would they even have that? It's even more embarrassing now.
Oh, because he walked up without his armor. He was just in his, spandex.
Because the movie has explained 80 times that he's just a human, but it can't show the fact that he's just a human at all.
Yeah, good point.
There was also like an ending that I would have been okay with, that they were actually setting up where Ross, when he's talking to his daughter, is like, hey, do you remember how we used to walk by the like flowers by the lake or something? That'd be something I'd love for us to do. And at the end here, when the Red Hulk gets up and Sam is facing him, I'm thinking the only way they're going to be able to sort of calm him down is by bringing Betty. But they don't.
That's the only thing that makes sense. He just says, chill, bro, instead. Like, that's
and he's
it.
like, all right.
They literally set it up. It's one of the only things they've set up, and you can do something with it. This is where the blossoms are right fucking there. This is where she should come. It makes so much sense, and they still don't have it happen. It's just a bizarre movie, man. You're so right. Everyone was expecting her to show up.
Liv Tyler probably read the scripts like, I'll just show up and then
you got me for 5 minutes, bro.
Have you seen the interview with Liv Tyler? She doesn't even know how to say Kevin Feige's name correctly. She's like, yeah, Kevin Feige called me, and it's like, I'd love for you to be a part of this.
It's a Freudian slip.
She hasn't aged a day. She's still fine as hell. My God, man.
She does look good.
He does look good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, lots of Snapchat filters to make that happen, boys. Don't worry.
Yes, but that brings us basically to the end of the movie. Yeah. So Isaiah is now out of prison somehow. Don't know why, but fine. The Adamantium Treaty gets signed after all. and Ross's name is still on it, so he gets his legacy, but he has sent himself to Azkaban, as mentioned. And this is where I think the movie, I think, probably wanted to do a lot more of this, and a lot of it was probably cut out. It kind of almost completely steered away from any angry red president destroying White House is probably Trump type narrative, kind of until the very end when Sam goes to visit him in Azkaban, and he's like, you did the right thing. You turned yourself in. You faced the consequences for your actions. You've still got a legacy. Don't worry. But this is the right place for you. You've accepted responsibility. And it's like, yeah, this is exactly what they thought. No, this is exactly what they thought, like they really wanted Trump to do. If they thought, I think if he lost all of those court cases, this is their like wish fulfillment fantasy. He realizes he's a good person and accepts that he should be in prison. But in the prison, who should turn up but Liv Tyler herself? Arwen does make it into the movie. The last possible moment, way after she should have done, and long after it changes anything, and they just kind of have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, it was like, oh, we can't take that walk or something like that, but we can talk. It was,
yeah, and it makes no difference. And that's kind of the end for him. Do we expect to be seeing President Ross anytime again ever? Because my read of that is you don't cast an 80-year-old man to play a character.
Yeah, I was going to say they'll have to recast him again pretty soon. I think.
Don't skip over the fact that you have creepy ass Falcon staring in the background. Like, leave, bro. They're trying to have a moment
with that Anthony Mackie smile that he always has. That
little smirk.
What about Broccoli Man?
Here, dude.
He's in prison, isn't he? Broccoli Man.
Well, that's the thing. But you can jump to that's the post-credit scene. I don't imagine any of this was how it was originally planned, because why would you put the guy responsible for the mind control thing and turning him into Red Hulk in the same prison as Red Hulk? Do you really think Azkaban's walls are strong enough to stop the Red Hulk if he gets angry again? I don't, because he can break everything. He can break fucking vibranium, and the bars are made of steel. But they do. And yeah, it's his line. This is, again, this film doesn't commit to anything. So like they have one more chat with Stearns at the end of it when he's like, you're not going to like what comes next. What's coming next? Another movie, I guess. He doesn't tell you anything. It's like you managed to defeat an enemy of this world, but what happens when other worlds come calling for you? Oh, so we get okay. That's great.
What, Kang? What, another Kang variation? Like, what do they have to tease? Like, nobody. It's
Secret Wars. Yeah, Secret Wars, I guess, or like. Doomsday.
Yeah, the multiverse really is what I took away from that, and I thought it was just kind of a microcosm of the entire movie wrapped into one scene, which is like, yeah, the audience is well aware of the multiverse, and once again, we are 10 steps ahead of the script. Thank you.
And the script has to keep it vague enough that it could refer to any coming film, not a specific one, just any potential film that comes next. It could refer to. I just can't help but thinking as well, this is a man whose superpower is prediction. He's predicting this, but he's only in prison because he completely fucking failed to predict anything to put him out of prison.
Yeah, that's right. He's predicting Ironheart is next.
Oh, jeez. Bring her to me. Bring her to me. I can't believe they're going through with that. They're crazy.
I know.
They're fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's insane to me.
Bro, I get messaged like once a week saying, who's Ironheart? Who's Ironheart? There's an Ironheart movie? Who's Ironheart? I've never heard of this Ironheart person. Nobody knows this chick. Nobody even remembers she exists. It's going to fail, and I will be there. I can't wait.
That is coming up next, surely. There is only one scene we have not accounted for. That is that Torres wakes up in hospital and Sam goes to pay him a visit and reveals that he's an asshole. So Torres is really upset with himself, right? He's like, I failed, and the reason I always wanted to be you, Sam, is that you never fail. You're always on point, and you would be. Okay, so how do you? Sam's response is, "Yep, you're totally right. Yep. I'm perfect."
You know what? You got a good point there, pal.
Because if I failed, I would let down all of the people who relied on me. He says to someone who's upset because he failed. If you're a failure, you let people down. That's why I never fail. You total fucking
or you can give him some proper armor, you prick. Like instead of having your friend get killed, it's so stupid. Like whatever his name is, fucking Little Bird, like Puerto Rican Falcon, he ranks so much higher than Sam does in this movie in terms of he earned it. Isaiah had the performance, even though he had like 2 scenes. Sam is like 3rd or 4th, man. I don't even know what to say about that.
But it doesn't even add up. There's plenty of moments where Falcon fails. There's like moments where he loses fights. There's the big important one when the reason Rhodey gets shot down is because Vision's
Yes.
shooting at Sam, and it's Sam's decisions that have led them to that
Oh
point.
yeah.
And he
as a result of
apologizes
his
for that as
decisions, and he
well.
apologizes for the fact, that's arguably a massive failure. And the lesson you should be teaching to this young guy who's aspiring to be you is it's not like your absence of failure that makes you great. It's the fact that you're committed to doing the right thing and you learn from your mistakes.
He's introduced. Sorry to interrupt. This just dropped in my head. He's literally introduced failing, losing to Steve in a race over and over again. They established from the very first scene with this guy. It's not about him being the best or the strongest, but we see his spirit still wanting to keep up with Steve, even though he can't. Him losing to the Winter Soldier is what started the entire relationship between them, and it all starts with him getting stomped. And then once you know what I mean? Like none of
as
that
Chad
would work.
points out, he lost to fucking Ant-Man. You failed, dude.
You failed. You lose to fucking Scott. You holy shit, man. Oh my god, you lose to Scott Lang. Like, it's just Why are they ignoring this part of his character? Failure.
And it's kind of like there's fade out quippy dialogue where Joaquin makes the really, really sensible point that if he'd got a vibranium suit like Sam does, he might not have been in hospital. And it's like, could you maybe give me an in with the Wakandans? And Sam's like, fucking no. The Wakandans are massively racist. They're not going to give vibranium to a non-black person. What are you talking about?
Literally, the movie ends on that line. Like, Wakandans? Fuck no. The end. Credits. Like, that's pretty much it. It's such a stupid fucking last way to do their conversation. Kind of a waste of their friendship as well, too. They could have had a better way to like wrap that all up.
But didn't they call Wakanda right in the beginning? Was it Harrison Ford's Ross who said the ethno state? What
he calls it an isolationist state. Ethno state is the accurate way of putting it, but Marvel is not going to admit that that's what Wakanda is.
I thought I heard ethno state. I must have. Wow. Okay. Isolationist.
No, they'll never be honest about Wakanda. It's such a strange gray area in the MCU.
But that is the end of the movie, though, and including the post-credit scene. So I guess we could do sort of concluding thoughts on the movie, right? Reverse order. Nia, do you want to go first? Your overall impressions as to what this was and where this is going.
Oh, it's a hodgepodge of just multiple films, multiple superheroes all wrapped up into one. They had no idea how to pick up from the slop that we've had prior to this. They couldn't sort of fit it into the story coherently. The villain is just so underwhelming. He doesn't complement the protagonist. He's not the antithesis of him. And Sam sort of stumbles upon the villain by accident. Sort of, it's very incidental to the plot. It's not. This movie's a mess. It didn't cost 180 million like they said. It's probably 450 to 500 mil. Then you add marketing, it's like 650 to 700 mil. They need to make like $1 billion, 1.1 billion to break even, not even to make a profit. I don't see that happening. This movie was a waste. They, instead of establishing Sam Wilson as Captain America, they turned him into a dick. But they didn't do a good job of establishing why Joaquin Torres is a really good Falcon. He sort of earns his spot, but I don't think that Sam earns his place as Captain America. So just a waste. The plot is inconsequential to what happened before and where this is going. You don't need to watch this movie to see what's going to happen in the upcoming films. It's just a waste of time. I wish I didn't see it twice.
I feel that sentiment very deeply. George, what are your concluding thoughts on this masterpiece of a movie?
I am not as eloquent as Knight. I will just basically say it was crap. I mean, it's like I've seen it 2.5 times. Yeah, no, I'm working on the video. It felt to me like a rush television show. It's like something that should go on Disney Plus. Like we used to say, straight to DVD. It used to be in the past. This should have been straight to streaming. Right? Again, it has homework. For people who hadn't seen or remembered, The Incredible Hulk from 2008, a movie that even Marvel forgot. You got the Eternals, the first MCU movie to act as Ambien and put everybody into a coma, ties up with a Celestial that they haven't mentioned in, 4 years?
5 years.
In 8 movies. And then you have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which, how many people saw that? So it's, you're tying up plots in a movie that almost most people haven't seen the basis of it, the foundation of it. So It's basically a paycheck for Harrison Ford, and a good way to announce that now, look, Disney has a black Captain America. What do you think of that? That's pretty much it. My favorite character was Isaiah and Joaquin. It was the rise of the new Falcon.
Pretty much.
Pretty
Yeah.
much it. The rest of it, crap.
I do like the way, I'm pretty sure Eternals ends with this giant evil god saying, I will return to judge humanity. I guess
yeah.
he forgot to do that the 5 years since. Jedi, what are your concluding sentiments, thoughts, feelings?
This movie was an embarrassing waste of time, and like a lot of Marvel movies, a massive waste of potential. The fact that Bucky's whole storyline is pretty much shredded now at this point. He's a fucking he's a politician now, or whatever the fuck that was. The idea that we've spent this much time with Falcon throughout the MCU, establish him as a really good character, erase that to make him a piece of shit, try to go through this story and do nothing to earn it whatsoever, where I feel like I know less about him now after this movie than I did at the beginning. Isaiah, like I said, fantastic performer, but I just wish he was being used for a real story, not this kind of like waste, diversity hire character. That's pretty much all he's there for, to just all the nonsense that they were preaching in the show. And I'm just not sure where they're going to go from here. That it's just kind of touching on what I said on earlier, is we don't really know what this movie is continuing from, because it's just taking pieces from so many different stories, and we don't know what the point of it was. What is it leading to? What is it setting up? And what did it achieve in itself for the world or the characters? It's just a legit waste of time. It's not something like Loki or Multiverse of Madness that fucks up the rules and the world building and whatnot. It's not like Secret Invasion or Black Widow where it just destroys beloved characters. It doesn't do that type of damage, but it's a complete waste of time and resources and any investment we have left in the franchise. And that's what I think is more frustrating. And another slap in the face to the Hulk. That's pisses me off. I just, yeah. So fuck this movie. It shouldn't exist. And they need to do better. That's pretty much where I'm at.
Do better, Marvel.
Sammy, anything that we have said so far inspire you to go and see this movie?
No, it sounds like I saved my money and I had a better time being sick in bed. I think what I did was probably the most enjoyable way to ingest this media, is to listen to people who had to see it a couple of times lament over the travesty of what it is. It sounds like they underutilized anything that could have been remotely redeemable about this film, and just couldn't pull the trigger on anything. So it's nice to know that I still have that ability to look at a preview, especially for anything that Disney has shat out in the last couple of years, and went, oh, I've basically seen this movie without seeing it. Yeah, I'm glad. I didn't enjoy the flu, but it sounds like I kind of lucked out here. So thank you guys for having me. That was I'm sorry that you guys had to watch this so many times, but
it's not physically painful like Thor: Love and Thunder. It's not that.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like, it's not that. Yeah, I think this should be said. It's better than a lot of Phase 4 movies. I saw someone saying it's worse than you're crazy. No, Thor: Love and Thunder is worse than this movie. The Marvels is worse than this movie.
Oh yeah, the Marvels is worse.
It's not the worst MCU movie. It's just crap.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cared. I think that's what I did in that. It feels like nobody gives a damn.
Yeah, nobody cares. There's not much to ruin. It's just like whatever at this point. Where like Secret Invasion, for example, I still cared about Nick Fury, Maria Hill. I still liked Rhodey. I still liked. All of them got blown up, grenades to the face. So it depends on your investment as well.
Which is a really bad sign when it's a Captain America movie and the overwhelming response is apathy. I could understand it for Ant-Man, but for Captain America, no.
One of your big
Cynic,
hitters has got nothing.
Your turn, I think.
Yeah, I think it's probably the second or third worst movie in the entire MCU canon at this point.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, watching it this 3 times, it's pretty awful. If Deadpool and Wolverine is McDonald's, where it's, it tastes real good, but it's not good for you, and you just forget about it, and after, shit it out 5 minutes later. This, I don't know what this is. This is like
stop
Panda,
and go burrito.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like Panda Express or something, man. Like,
old ramen noodles.
It's like a frozen burrito from the gas station, or old sushi from the gas station. There you go.
Yeah.
Nugget under your couch.
God,
Yeah.
it's just awful. It's so strange to me that they decided to basically remake a movie within its own franchise that came out just like 10 years ago, because it really is just this carbon copy of Winter Soldier, almost beat by beat. And it's, you know, you make a copy of something, it's not going to come out as good as the original, but then you add in and shoehorn in all of these other things, like trying to make the Eternals matter and trying to soft introduce the X-Men and it's just I think someone said it's a hodgepodge of a bunch of shit mashed together. It's a really terrible movie. It's a movie made by committee and not by someone that actually had any sense of vision at all. It's a studio movie through and through, and it's not worth anyone's time that hasn't seen this fucking thing. Just don't see it.
Well
Yeah.
said.
Yeah,
What
it's
did they
not
have?
worth
5
the time, just
writers.
put it-
They had 5 writers, I believe. 5.
Mhm.
I think. What did one of? Yeah,
ridiculous.
5.
for this crap. Wow.
And the director, remember, it was a Cloverfield Paradox, Monsters in Space,
Mhm.
and a music video and a couple other shorts. Yeah, no bueno.
And Platoon, what is your final take on it?
Much the same. I think the only saving grace it has is that it achieves nothing, and so it's less damaging than most Phase 4 or 5 movies. This was sort of the EFAP conclusion as well. I think on its own terms, it's laughably incompetent. It might be technically one of the worst, but the fact that it doesn't do too much damage to everything around it in the way that everything like in Phase 4 and 5 generally did means that it's actually probably one of the better recent Marvel movies, which is just the sign of how low that bar has sunk. I mean, Professor X could wheel over it. So, yeah, you don't need to see it. That's not something I ever thought I would say about a Captain America movie, but it is the situation we find ourselves in. One character had anything resembling an arc, and that was President Ross, whose arc goes from "Have I changed?" to "Yes,"
Kind of.
and that's it.
This wasn't
Nobody
a
else
Captain
changes.
America movie. This just wasn't a Captain America movie. It just
No.
wasn't. It just doesn't belong next. Like that trilogy is set in stone. It's the best Marvel trilogy. It's one of the best superhero trilogies in existence. And I just can't. I'm not going to the point of saying, oh, this isn't canon, but like I don't associate like you're not Captain America, bro. I'm sorry. I've watched a whole show of you and a film. You're not Cap. It just
That's
doesn't
what's
work,
so
man.
annoying about it too, is it's one of those situations where they're just slapping the name on it, and that's what they hope draws you to the theater. This is not Captain America. It's just not.
Them calling him Cap is what really annoys the fuck out of me. Like that.
Call him Sam.
Like and that's what they've been, like they know him as Sam Wilson for so much longer than that, and calling him Cap's literally like this literally his nickname. That's Steve Rogers. That is a Steve Rogers thing. You can't just call all the Captain Americas Cap. Like this doesn't fucking.
Right.
It's just bullshit.
Well, if you think about it, we talked about it real quick. Steve Rogers, what would you say is the definition of him? The definition of human spirit? You know, like I can do this all day.
The best of humanity.
The best of humanity. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
he's the best
by
of
the end of the film, what can you say about Sam?
Fuck all. Nothing. That's what we've been
Like,
discussing.
I know, but what's his character? There is nothing. Zero.
You came a little bit late, but we went over those things in terms of like I know less about him now. Like this was your opportunity. You learned so much about Steve in the first 20 minutes of his movie. Where Sam, it's just they're contradicting a lot of it. They're wasting our time with most of it, and they're doing really nothing to have us get invested in him as the new Captain America. Where I think
he's
John
the best
Walker
at
did
being
more in the show.
Wakanda, Ant-Man, Black Captain America.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all we got to know.
The humility that John Walker showed in the show, and like his thought process behind wanting to take up the mantle of Cap and whatnot, not wanting to disappoint the people who thinks he can do it, that showed more like character and more spirit than we got from Falcon in the entire movie or the entire show. It's a complete waste. They accidentally made a good character in John Walker, and then they had them fucking mug him and take the shield. Like I can't believe that. Terrible mistake.
So, what do y'all think about Thunderbolts? People keep saying that it has a possibility of being good.
No, it doesn't.
I believe it's not.
I think it has the possibility of being forgettable. That's about it.
I agree.
I don't think it matters if it is good. That's the more depressing thing from Marvel's perspective. It could come out and be really good, but it's by definition, it's the also-ran movie. It's the movie full of characters from shows nobody watched or liked.
Yeah. Do the math on how many shows and spin-off movies and whatnot you're gonna have to watch to have an idea of who the hell all these people are. Most of them are from Black Widow, a movie that nobody watched or even remembers at this point. Ghost.
Um,
Where, like, and remember Ghost? Put your hand up. Like,
Oh, from the Ant-Man? Was that from Ant-Man?
Ant-Man
Yeah, Man
Two,
2.
was it?
Yeah, the Man
Two?
2.
Task Mistress.
No, I don't remember Tess.
Yeah.
Task Mistress.
Taskmaster.
Oh God.
It's
Yeah.
all
Where the hell is Taskmistress from? I don't. Or Taskmaster? Isn't it
From
Taskmaster?
Black Widow.
Black
It's
Widow.
supposed to be
God,
Taskmaster.
I forgot.
Yeah.
But they
forgot about
feminized him.
Yep.
That really upset me.
We
Taskmaster
do
could have been
have
awesome.
a shit ton of super chats to get to. Sorry that we didn't do it throughout the show. Just didn't want to break up the conversation here, but we do have quite a few. So any other word on Captain America before I start pulling these in here?
I liked it.